The first item on the order paper is a motion in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. The Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Chair, we move that the House, in terms of Rule 36, read with item 7 of Appendix A to the rules, and notwithstanding any provisions to the contrary, grants Ms. N. W. Madikizela Mandela MP leave of absence from the House due to ill health until the 30th of June 2017. I so move, House Chair.
Honourable members, I now put the motion. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. Honourable members, the next item on the order paper is a debate on an urgent matter of national importance in terms of Rule 130. In the name of Dr. P.J. Groenewald, on the recent increase in farm murders and farm attacks in South Africa. I now recognize the Honourable Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, die vraag kan gevra word hoekom ons spesifiek vandag 'n debat het oor plaasmoorde. Want moorde in Suid-Afrika is van so 'n aard dat dit amper 5 keer meer is as die wêreld gemiddeld. As ons gaan kyk in terme van moorde, dan is die wêreld gemiddeld 7 per 100,000 van die bevolking. As ons gaan kyk na Suid-Afrika se moordsyfer, is dit 33 per 100,000 van die bevolking. Maar daar's 'n spesifieke rede hoekom ek die debat aangevra het vir plaasmoorde. En die rede is daarin dat as ons gaan kyk na die moordsyfer op polisielede, dan is die syfer ongeveer 54 per 100,000 van die bevolking. Maar in die geval van boere en plase, dan sien ons dit styg na 133 per 100,000. Ek kan met ander woorde sê, dit is amper 3 keer gevaarliker om te boer in Suid-Afrika as om 'n polisieman of 'n polisievrou te wees. If you look further, besides the fact that farmers and the farm murder rate is 133 per 100,000, it is the agricultural sector that contributes 6.9% to the GDP. We also know that they employ almost 1 million people in the agricultural sector. Therefore, it is very important. But I also want to say that everything you ate up till today, or what you drank, besides pure water, was a product from the agricultural sector, produced by farmers. And I know, Honourable Chair, that if we talk about statistics, that there are different opinions when we talk about what the real numbers are. I did a study and I looked at the sources, specifically as far as the report on farm attacks of 2003, compiled by the police with different members on that committee. I also looked at the crime statistics of the South African Police Services. So the statistics I'm giving you are the statistics from the police. And according to these statistics, since 1991, there were 2,393 murders on our farms in 14,589 farm attacks. And let I put it up front. There is a perspective of a perception that if we talk about farm murders, we only talk about white people. It's not true. According to research, it shows that about 40% of all victims of farm murders are black people. So if you look at these statistics, I also know that the Honourable Minister for Police will show that there was quite a decrease in farm murders and farm attacks. But what we must also remember is that the farming community had no option but to ensure that they look after their safety themselves. And because of the increased safety measures taken by the farmers, we have a decrease in farm murders. But the fact of the matter is that former President Thabo Mbeki said that when he disbanded the commando system, that he will ensure that there is something in its place to ensure safety in our rural areas. And that was actually the idea of sector policing. But at the moment, it does not work properly. According to statistics given at the Police Portfolio Committee, some of the police stations in our rural areas didn't even start with sector policing. About 50% does not fulfill on the minimum requirements for sector policing. I had a call yesterday in Uppington, for instance. You have one vehicle, police vehicle, for 184 farms in that area with 4 police members. It is not as successful as we think, and I appeal that we have to look at this. Honourable Chairperson, it is also been found in the report that if you look at the causes of farm murders, that less than 2% was where the victims of the murderers were known to the criminals. Less than 2%. So I know some people say, but it is because the mistreatment from the farmers. That is a research. It has also shown that about 2% are politically motivated. Now let me say it, Honourable Chair, that if we look at the farm murders, normally it is said, yes, but it is only normal criminality. Now let me read to you some of cases of farm murders. I say that it is not normal criminality if you look at the Lindley farmers, where Wilmin, a 2-year-old toddler, a father and a mother were brutally murdered. When asked by State Prosecutor Jannie Botha on his impressions of Potgieter's body, then Boek, the coroner, said the deceased had been tortured to death. I say it is not normal criminality if you look, for instance, at the Swanepoel family in KwaZulu-Natal, oh no, this was in Bloemfontein, where the investigating officer Kobus Kutsie told the court that the couple were tied to a single bed and tortured for hours. The men took turns to rape Rini while her husband was forced to watch. I say it is not normal criminality if you look, for instance, at the Schutte family at Richmond, KwaZulu-Natal. It says Mrs. Schutte's head was crushed with a heavy object and all 3 victims were set on fire. I say it is not normal criminality if you look at Dan Knight, also from KwaZulu-Natal, where it says that his partner Beth Buchner were attacked in their home by a gang of 5 men. Knight was beaten to death with hammers, while Buchner was forced to watch. I say it is not normal criminality if you look at the recent case of Nikki Simpson, when the perpetrators used a plastic bag where, for instance, they cut her arms, broke her ribs, her knee, and even used an electric drill to drill holes in her feet. That is not normal criminality. I also say it is not normal criminality. For instance, if you look at the farmer murdered near Parijs, where the murderers then actually took out his testicles, boiled them, cooked them, and then ate it. That is the shocking picture and the inconvenient truth of farm murders. And I say again, it is the inconvenient truth of farm murders. And we cannot continue to like this, and therefore I ask a moment of silence for all those peoples murdered
Honourable
on our
Member,
farms.
your time is now expired.
Thank you, Chair. At least some have the respect to have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Next speaker is the Honourable Beekman.
House Chairperson, Honourable Members, fellow South Africans. Die ANC wil by die aanvang van die debat dit baie duidelik stel dat die veiligheid van alle Suid-Afrikaners die prioriteit van die ANC en die regering is en alle rolspelers die benadering moet ondersteun. Ons verwelkom die geleentheid om vandag aan hierdie debat te kan deelneem met die oog om oplossings te kry vir die knelpunt van landelike veiligheid en misdaad wat plaasgemeenskappe direk raak. Die ANC wil graag sy simpatie uitspreek met die families en vriende van alle persoonlike en landelike gebiede wat as gevolg van misdaad gesterf en beseer is. Die meerderheid van ons in hierdie raadsaal kom van landelike gebiede en ons weet watter negatiewe invloed misdaad op die platteland kan wees in terme van lewenskwaliteit, samehorigheid en eenheid. Dis 'n debat wat maklik op retoriek en emosionele verdeling gebaseer kan wees. Dit is die verkeerde vertrekpunt. Ons moet bereid wees om 'n landsbelang eerste te stel. Die toon van hierdie debat en die boodskap wat ons aan 55 miljoen Suid-Afrikaners stuur en hoe om oplossings te kry, is die belangrikste. Die Vryheidsmanifest is baie duidelik. Suid-Afrika behoort aan almal wat hier bly. In the words of President O.R. Tambo, we have a vision of South Africa in which black and white shall live and work together, and where we will be neither whites nor blacks, just South Africans, free and united in diversity. Die veiligheid en sekuriteit van alle Suid-Afrikaners moet altyd die hoogste prioriteit kry. Die nasionale ontwikkelingsplan stel die ideaal van Suid-Afrika waar almal veilig voel en is. Plase is deel van hierdie Suid-Afrika. Almal wat op plase bly, dit besit en dit bewerk, moet veilig voel en wees. House Chairperson, I want to quote from one of the founding fathers of our new South Africa, President Nelson Mandela, when he addressed the summit on rural safety in Midrand in 1998, and I quote, "Beyond the immediate human suffering, lack of security and stability in our rural and farming communities cause a serious disruption to our economy. It threatens to bring reduced growth or production, loss of wages and profits, and in time unemployment. It brings the spectre of deepening poverty and potential social instability and upheaval. For all these reasons, these killings must stop, and we must act together in doing so, for there is no other way to succeed." I want to repeat what President Mandela said, and we must act together in doing so, for there is no other way to succeed. Chairperson, farms are often seen by criminals as soft targets for cash and firearms, largely because of the isolated nature to farms and smallholdings. Rural and farming communities are vulnerable to crime as resources are generally spread in favor of urban areas. The National Development Plan states that access to justice and the safety of rural and farming communities demand special attention. The nature of farm murders is often violent and brutal. However, there are no evidence to support any assertion that the levels of brutality seen in farm murders is unique and isolated to the sector and crime. Dr. Johan Burger of the ISS states that the brutality of farm murders is very difficult phenomena to explain. In 2016, rural safety, including incidents of violence on farms and smallholdings, was prioritized by the Acting National Commissioner of Police. In order to facilitate the review process of the Rural Safety Strategy, a Rural Safety Summit will be held later in the financial year. The 2016-17 APP of the SAP states that focused crime prevention operations and awareness campaigns will be enhanced in the 2016 financial year to include those areas and sectors of society that are vulnerable to crime, including inter alia, identified high crime areas, schools, the taxing industry, farms and small holdings. Then very importantly, Chairperson, the definition of a farm attack was also amended to include incidents of violence on farms and small holdings. Acts of violence against persons on farms and small holdings refers to acts aimed at persons residing on, working on, or visiting farms and small holdings, whether with intent to murder, rape, rob, or inflict bodily harm. These include farm owners, farm workers, and all other citizens of this country, irrespective of race, color, creed, religion, or sex. Farm attacks is not a new occurrence in the crime patterns of the South African landscape. Overall incidents of violence on farms and small holdings showed a steady decrease between the 2010-11 and 15-16 financial years. Murders reached a height in 1978 with 153 victims. In the last financial year, the number of murders was 46. In 2016, the SAPS conducted analysis on farm attacks that shows that there has been a major shift in target selection from small holdings to more isolated farms. Furthermore, another feature is that they mostly occur between Tuesdays and Saturdays at night time, while most victims are attacked while asleep. The SAPS indicated that most of the arrests that have been affected are due to good cooperation from the local farming community. The South African Human Rights Commission published recommendations after the 2014 hearings held on safety and security challenges faced by farming communities. It includes, amongst others, the SAPS and the NPA step up their involvement in combating the crimes against farming communities. Particular attention is given to race relations in farming communities. The stereotypes of farming in South Africa are addressed in the overall awareness raising. Research on safety and security challenges are important and should continue. The police service needs to focus on developing additional policies to ensure that the rural safety strategy is implemented successfully. Other practical steps proposed by the Human Rights Commission include farm watchers should be incorporated into the Community Policing Forum. Farm owners need to allow government services access to the land more frequently. An evaluation of the program to empower traditional leaders on safety and security in farming communities is needed. Chairperson, it's the duty of all the members of this House to ensure that we continue to monitor the implementation of these recommendations. The implementation of the rural safety strategy was based on 4 pillars: enhanced service delivery, integrated approach, community safety awareness, and rural development. We have taken note that the SAPS division Visible Policing has commenced with a review of the rural safety strategy to ensure rural alignment to the NDP and to address specific community concerns. We on this side of the House are of the firm view that this review should be fast-tracked so that evolving threats to rural safety could be addressed as a matter of priority. Die Portefeulje Komitee Polisie het juis op 26 Augustus 2016 'n vergadering met die Suid-Afrikaanse Polisiediens en rolspelers, waaronder die Menseregte Kommissie belê, waarin dringend na landelike veiligheid gekyk is. Daar was eensgesindheid by die vergadering dat die implementering van alle aanbevelings van die NOP die enigste manier is om die veranderde vraagstuk van landelike veiligheid aan te spreek. Dit sluit onder andere die volgende praktiese stappe in. Kommunikasiehulpmiddels en vroeë waarskuwingsstelsels moet geproduseer word om langafstande en swak infrastruktuur in landelike gebiede aan te spreek. Veiligheids- en misdaadvoorkoming opleidingswerkwinkels moet gesamentlik vir boere en plaaswerkers aangebied word. 'n Veiligheidsplan vir elke plaas moet ontwikkel word wat fokus op die veiligheid van almal, veral die mees weerlose en die wat die meeste blootgestel is. Die plaaswagstelsel moet oor die nodige kapasiteit beskik en ondersteuning van die plaaslike polisiestasie ontvang. Die plaas- en landelike gemeenskap moet ondersteun word deur die besigheidsgemeenskap wat in die landbouveld opereer. Voorsitter, die onlangse aanvaarding van die wetskrif op polisieering en die wetskrif op veiligheid en sekuriteit deur die kabinet is 'n belangrike stap om die grondslag te lê vir die verbetering en versterking van landelike veiligheid. Daar is 'n goue draad wat altyd die wetskrifte loop: samewerking tussen gemeenskappe en die polisie, samewerking tussen landelike munisipaliteite en die plaasgemeenskappe, samewerking tussen georganiseerde landbou en die polisie. Chairperson, one component of the SAPS that is critical in ensuring that crime syndicates and gangs operating in rural communities are identified, profiled and arrested is Program 4, Crime Intelligence. In the new financial year, an amount of 3.3 billion is made available to this program. The ANC believes that crime intelligence should up their game to ensure that the management of crime intelligence and the analysis of crime information in rural areas leads to a reduction in attacks and rural crime. The ANC says that we need more network operations in rural areas and an increase in tactical and operational intelligence products in support of policing activities. The new specialized unit focusing on illegal firearms that is located within the DPCI will be a critical force multiplier investigating cases where firearms are the instrument to commit rural attacks. The SAPs have embarked on a campaign in November 2016 to recruit a new intake of police reservists. It is also an opportunity for citizens in rural communities to become part and parcel of the effort to assist the SAPs in their fight against crime. The ANC indicates in the strategy and tactics document that the national struggle for freedom was critical overarching vehicle to bring about peace, security and stability to our society. In dealing with issues of crime, the ANC proceeds from the premise that a rising quality of life also means improvement in the safety and security of citizens in the homes and environments where they live, work and engage in extramural activity. These principles are critical in addressing the challenges of crime, especially its uniquely random and violent nature in our country. In the January 8 statement 2017, the ANC-NEC stated the following, and I quote, "We call on our people to work within the criminal justice system and to report all instances of crime. Let us unite in the face of these criminals who seek to undermine our freedom." Chairperson, I want to close with the words of President Mandela at that rural summit, and I quote, the strongest shield for each farm or the farming community as a whole are the people that reside on the farms, farmers and workers, landowners and tenants alike. The conditions in which they live do affect the way they respond in the event of an attack. The solution to the problem of farm killings must emerge from all of us. I'm convinced that any political differences notwithstanding, this is one issue on which we can speak with one voice. I'm of the view that even at times the chorus may have been discordant, we are singing the same song. South Africans are daring people who do not shy away from a challenge. This is yet another challenge we must tackle with pride and determination. Together we can make our rural areas safe. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Steyn.
Chairperson, we are today participating in a debate to discuss murder. Murder is the unlawful and intentional killing of another human being. South Africa has a shocking murder rate. During 2015-16, 18,673 murders were recorded. It is an average of 51.2 murders per day. We have become so accustomed to this that we don't even blink an eye anymore when someone is murdered. Voorsitter, plaasmoorde lê my na aan die hart. Ek is 'n gebore plaasmeisie en weet hoe dit voel om by die plaashek in te ry en te wonder of daar dalk onwelkome gaste op my wag. Ek weet hoe dit voel om in die nag wakker te word as daar vreemde geluide hoor en dan stil in die donker op te staan en versigtig deur die huis te beweeg om seker te maak dat alles buite nog reg is. Ek vrees elke dag dat iemand na aan my en waarvoor ek lief is op 'n plaas vermoor kan word. Wat ek nie weet nie, is hoe dit voel om te hoor dat een van jou geliefdes of werkers in 'n plaasmoord gesterf het. Terwyl moord in ons land buite beheer is, kan niemand hier vandag sê dit al nie bewus is van die gruwelmoorde wat op Suid-Afrikaanse plase plaasvind nie. Chairperson, we may disagree with the reasons for these murders. Some may say it's because farmers mistreat their workers or because they stole our land. But we have to agree that the torture of any person by another is inhumane and barbaric. This year alone, we have seen more than 70 attacks on farms where 20 people lost their lives. Let me tell you how three of these attacks happened. On 13 January this year, the 69-year-old Mrs. Kitson were killed while recovering from a hip operation and sitting in a wheelchair. Mrs. Kitson was repeatedly stabbed with a sharp object and then her throat was slit. Her husband was also found with his throat slit. Op 22 Februarie het Sue Howard na 2 dae in die intensiewe sorgeenheid die stryd gewonne gegee. Sue het 'n gruweldood gesterf. Haar liggaam was vol meswonde, haar borste was gebrand en haar oë toegeswel. Net om seker te maak dat sy wel doodgaan, het die aanvallers 'n swart sak in haar keel gedruk en haar toe nog in die kop geskiet. This past weekend, the 62-year-old Nikki Simpson was tied to a chair and tortured with an electrical drill, drilling holes in her feet, legs and knees. Her ribs were broken and she was stabbed multiple times. Luckily, she survived the horrific attack. How is it possible that even one person could get burned with hot water, an iron dripping plastic, a blowtorch, slaughtered like an animal, and no one says a word? Why are we quiet when it comes to crimes affecting farming and rural communities? Could I assume that we are quiet because these victims are farmers? Hierdie aanvalle is nie slegs teen boere nie. Plaaswerkers word ook hierdeur geraak. Inligting versamel deur Vrystaat Landbou wys dat daar reeds 12 aanvalle hierdie jaar in die Vrystaat plaasgevind het. In 7 gevalle was dit teen plaaswerkers gerig. Op Saterdag 11 Maart is 2 werkers naby Kroonstad deur 10 rowers aangeval en aangerand. Crime and violence is affecting and dehumanizing all people in farming and rural communities, irrespective of their racial identities. When then does the government turn a blind eye to these? Why does the government refuse to take decisive action to protect its farming and rural communities? Instead, what we have been seeing is political leaders using rhetoric that only serves to incite hate and more violence. The president sings, "Bring back my machine gun," while people are murdered by gangs bringing their machine guns. Others tell their followers to invade land illegally while singing, "One settler, one bullet." We cannot allow this to spiral into racial hatred and for us to divide people along racial lines. We have to stand up and condemn all murders. It cannot be allowed to torture a person over 2 days and no one says a word. It cannot be allowed for a person to shoot someone and then say, "I thought it was a monkey." We must take collective responsibility for our divided country by ensuring that all our citizens feel safe and secure. Ek het die afgelope maandag na Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng en die Vrystaat gery om met boere oor landelike veiligheid te praat. Die Demokratiese Alliansie stel die volgende voor. Plaasaanvalle moet as prioriteitsmisdaad geklassifiseer word sodat meer hulpbronne aan die landelike veiligheidseenhede toegewys kan word. Dit is belangrik dat hierdie aanvalle vorentoe as 'n afsonderlike misdaadkategorie vir statistiese doeleindes geklassifiseer word. Misdaadintelligensie moet betrokke wees ten einde te bepaal of daar 'n skakel bestaan tussen plaasaanvalle waar kriminele vir wapens soek en ander syndikaatverwante misdade in Suid-Afrika. Plaasaanvalle word goed beplan en uitgevoer en kan nie meer as gewone misdaad beskou word nie. Die reservisteprogram in landelike gebiede moet behoorlik geïmplementeer word met 'n daadwerklike poging om boere, plaaswerkers en plaasbewoners op te werf en op te lei. Trauma-ondersteuning moet aan die slagoffers en families verskaf word om hierdie gruwelike werklikheid te hanteer. Chairperson, this is a fundamental human rights issue and people living on farms must be treated equally in this regard. The ANC should not show less care to a particular group of people based on race. Condemnation of attacks should come from government and stereotyping of farmers must stop. The Democratic Alliance would like to offer its condolences to all people who have lost their lives in our violent South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Next speaker is the Honourable Slope.
Thank you, House Chair. Let us remind the FF Plus about the following. In January 2016, Sean Tangasha, who was 29 years old, and Samuel Keka, who was 35 years old and working as casual laborers in farming Parys, were killed by a group of white farmers. Their only sin was demanding that their employer, Ulot Vesech, must pay them their salaries. Again, in October 2016, 2 white farmers, Willem Ostensen and Theo Jackson, appeared in court for forcing a black person, Victor Mlotshwa, into a coffin because they alleged that he was trespassing on their land. I wonder which land is yours in South Africa. In January this year, Mark Scott Crossley was arrested in Pretoria. Last year, Scott Crossley attacked a wildlife center worker and smashed his cell phone before running him over twice with a vehicle. There was no single statement from you, Freedom Front Plus. The employee Silence Mabunda was hospitalized after these incidents. In 2004, Scott Crossley was convicted of masterminding the premeditated murder of farm worker by throwing him to lions. There was no Freedom Front again. He was sentenced to life, but this was commuted to 5-year sentence after the Supreme Court of Appeal. In Lesitele farming area in Limpopo last week, not long ago, last week, a white farmer shot in the head Mathanane Ishmael, age 55 years old, who was riding a bicycle and claimed he mistook him for a monkey. What is that? No EFF plus. There are few examples of a very widespread phenomenon of racial abuse and killing of black people, black workers in particular by white farmers. Last year, a Danish filmmaker, Tom Henman, released a documentary named Bitter Grapes, which explores the working condition of farm workers in South Africa. The film depicts instances of long and exploitative of workers allegedly in violation of labor laws, unlawfully and exploitation without protection. Terrible living conditions and unofficial use of DOP system, an apartheid area arrangement in which workers are paid in alcohol rather than money. There is no EFF plus again. These cases receive no attention from Freedom Front Plus, AfriForum, and other right-wing groups because abuse and killing of black people is normal and accepted in a right-wing circles. We must not be fooled here. Secondly, South Africa has a serious problem of crime, and it was recently reported that on average, 9 people are killed in Cape Flats every day. But the EFF Plus wants us to highlight the murder of a few white people.
Order, honorable members.
But the FF Plus want to highlight the murder of a few white people regrettable as above the rest. The fact-checking website Africa Check has previously established white makes up 1.8% of total murder victims in South Africa, while forming 8.85% of the total population. It is often assumed that only white farmers are targeted in attacks, but this is not the case. It is black people who have to endure the violence of poverty every day, hour of the existence in township because they do
Honorable
not
member,
have land.
your time is now expired. Thank you. Next speaker is Wanko. Order, honorable members.
Honorable Chairperson, any one single murder in South Africa against any one single South African, irrespective of race, color, or creed, is a murder to many. Today, South Africa sees crime statistics that would horrify other countries around the world. In the first 2 weeks of February alone, AfriForum recorded that there were 11 farm murders and 30 attacks. By and large, these appear to be crimes fueled by hatred as they go way beyond robbery, inflicting cruelty, torture, pain, suffering, and in many instances, death upon their victims, who are more often than not defenseless and elderly, with children being made to look on in horror how their parents are being killed and then possibly be raped and killed themselves. Honorable Chairperson, an attack upon any one segment of society or class of people in South Africa is an attack upon all South Africans. Our horrific past has left us with a litany of examples of what one human being should never do to another human being. This cycle must stop. It must end if we are to have a chance at becoming this rainbow nation that we all pay such lip service to. SABC is a serious concern, and whilst we fully acknowledge and commend the bravery and efforts of our thousands of police officers out there on the streets, we remain extremely concerned that we are losing the fight against crime, and in particular the fight against serious crime in this country. Visible policing in our rural areas, farmlands, and outlying communities must be increased and better resourced. Community policing in the form of SABS reservists, for instance, must also be more greatly encouraged and supported. All murder and serious crime must be prioritized by SABS. The SABS Comprehensive Rural Safety Plan must also be structured so that it adequately deals with all murders perpetrated against those of all racial segments. We call upon the Minister of Police to not only acknowledge that murder in our rural areas and farmlands is way out of control, but also to personally visit substations in areas where these crimes are occurring and commission audits into the policing shortcomings in these areas. Food security is being eroded, Mr. Chairman, and farmers are fleeing. We are already importing millions of tons of maize. This was never the case before. The land issue also must be resolved to the satisfaction of all South Africans, as failure to do so will do nothing but fuel further divisions. Achtbare voorzitter, Suid-Afrika is 'n land vir almal wat binne julle grense lewe. Gemeenskappe moet saam staan met polisie teen kriminele elemente binne ons gemeenskap sodat ons in vrede kan saamlewe. Baie dankie.
Dank u, achtbare lid. The next speaker is the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members of the House and distinguished guests in the gallery. Honourable Chairperson, since the start of 2017, 26 farmers have been brutally murdered. Recent statistics indicate that as many as one farm attack a day occurs across the country. February recorded the most farm murders in a single month since 1990, with a total of 46 attacks and 16 farm murders. It is estimated that approximately 4,200 farm attacks occurred between 1990 and 2017, and 1,878 farm murders resulted from these attacks. Now, Honourable Chairperson, a murder of anyone should not be tolerated and accepted, be it a farm worker, be it somebody in the Cape Flats, be it in any particular area in the country, cannot be tolerated and must not be tolerated. The most recent statistic released by the Acting National Commissioner of Police at the beginning of March 2017 reveals that in the 2015-2016, there were 457 incidents of crime and 50 people were murdered on farms in that particular year. However, behind all the statistics, Chairperson, lies a tale of violence, trauma, and pain. The attacks on farm owners are known to be extremely violent and often accompanied by brutal torturing in the most barbaric way. The cost to human life should give rise to great concern to all peace-loving South Africans, and we should condemn these acts with one voice. Chairperson, one of the consequences of these farm attacks is the rising threat to our nation's food security. Less farmers means less food. It is as simple as that. As it is, South Africa is at the point where we import almost as much food as we produce. With every farmer killed, it means less food is produced, and if we become reliant on imported food, the cost to the poorest of the poor will be very high. We have to ask ourselves, what can be done to prevent these attacks on farmers? The National Freedom Party is greatly encouraged by the rural safety strategy of the police, which showed signs of potential for success. The crux of the strategy rests on cooperation between farmers and the police, and it is of utmost importance that the farming community must have faith in the police. Conversely, the police need to ensure that they are proactive and visible in their efforts to root out farm attacks. Finally, Chairperson, the National Freedom Party does not believe that the essence of farm attacks is motivated by race. All farmers in South Africa are at risk, be they white or black or Indian or colored. We therefore call on all South Africans and government and the police to stand united in our condemnation of farm attacks and to make every effort possible to ensure that our farmers continue to provide our country with food in peace and in security. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Fultane.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I wish to preface my contribution to this debate by saying that the United Democratic Movement is keenly aware of the plight of farmers who have fallen victim to what we generally call farm attacks. The UDM, without reservation, condemns these attacks of violence, murder, and lawlessness that have the daily characteristics of our communities. But we wish to direct our attention to another kind of farm attacks. On Friday, the 25th of March 2016, on a Good Friday, and ironically, in a Human Rights Month, a 6-year-old boy was attacked by a baboon on a farm near Richmond, leaving him in a critical condition. Prior to the attack on that human being, the baboons had endlessly destroyed the crops of the families living on the land. They were continuously exposed to physical danger and food insecurity, thus degrading their inhumanity and condemning them to poverty. The UDM is still repulsed by reports that the farmer had ignored the multiple warnings of the farm dwellers. The recent shooting of a farm worker in Limpopo by a farm owner claiming to have mistaken him for a monkey is another example of where farm workers and dwellers are treated as less than humans. These examples are a clear indication that the relationship between farm dwellers, workers, and owners is at its lowest ebb. The lives of farm workers and dwellers are not taken seriously by the landowners, and they even give animals better treatment and protection than they do their workers whom they pay meager wages anyway. The South African Human Rights Commission confirmed these observations when they briefed the Portfolio Committee on Rural Development in February this year. They conducted site inspections, some unannounced, on farms throughout the country and found, amongst others, the following. There is a challenge in accessing privately owned farms in the Western Cape, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. There have been several complaints relating to water and sanitation access on farms. There has been a lack of access to food and electricity for farm dwellers. Several farm families were allegedly forcibly removed from a farm in the Brede River Valley and placed in an informal settlement known as Spooky Town. In Limpopo, there is a prevalence of hate speech where farm workers are still called by the K word. Farm workers and their families must be freed from continuous physical, social, and economic isolation. Government needs to speed up its programs aimed at ensuring that families have access to services such as schools and the rest. As a society, we must continue with our efforts to ensure the peaceful and mutually beneficial coexistence of farmers and farm workers, including the surrounding communities. A stern warning against violation of human rights on farms must be issued. This kind of behavior must be rejected by all of us. An integrated approach must be adopted to ensure that the lives of farmers, farm workers, and dwellers are supremely respected. It is time for us to join hands in the movement that works towards finding lasting solutions to the socio-economic challenges that face the farming communities in our country. South Africa must belong to all who live in it, both in word and in deed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Lakota.
Thank you, Chairperson. My dear friends, let's remind each other that we have some 35,000 South African farmers who provide food for some 90% of the population of our country. As we reduce the numbers of those, for any number of reasons, the food becomes expensive for all of us in this country. And the poor people in particular suffer more than those of us who are sitting in this house. I'd like to make the point that if we are going to stop what's going on the countryside, we must start in this house. We in this house are elected leaders of the people of South Africa. If we break the law by going out there, in spite of our vote on the land question and say things that mislead our people into attacking each other, we are the prime source of the problem. Here we have in the office of president somebody who goes telling people that they are going to take land without compensation, in spite of what the party says. Somebody who lacks a political backbone. I was part of the decisions, and I don't hide it. I supported and I still support the constitution we adopted, the rules and the clauses that we undertook. When the president says the things he says today, which are in conflict with that constitution, when he was part of it, and therefore misleading young people to do things that they are doing, I must speak. But two, all the members of this House, all of us in this House, carry that responsibility. We cannot keep quiet. When Honorable Malema, who's not here this morning, stands on platforms and swear at some of the sections of the population, threaten them, and say they must wait until he comes to power and he'll go and walk all over them, the Helmut pass off. We can't keep quiet. Men and women of backbone must speak so that our children are not misled, so that generations to come don't slaughter each other as the Tutsis and the Hutus slaughtered each other in the case of Rwanda. We must speak, comrades. We must please speak. Those of us at our ages cannot keep quiet, because we know what can result from this thing.
Lokota, will you just take your seat?
Whether you are black or white, whether you are COPE or EFF,
Honorable
whether
Lokota,
you are Freedom Front
your
Plus or
time
not,
has now
we
expired.
cannot allow you to say the things which will make South Africans kill
Honorable
each other.
Lokota,
This I reject.
your time has
I'm
expired.
not yet finished, and I'm worried about my time is getting...
No, honorable member, your time has expired. Honorable Lokota, your time has expired. Please take your seat. Honorable Lokota, your time has expired. Your time has expired. You must take your seat, please. The next speaker is the Honorable Swart.
Dankie voorsitter. Die ACDP is dankbaar vir vandag se debat. En ons wil ook graag ons innige simpatie betuig aan alle slagoffers van misdaad, van alle misdaad in die land en in die besonder vandag vir slagoffers van plaasaanvalle. Die hoë vlak van plaasaanvalle is onaanvaarbaar en die hoë vlak moet 'n bron van groot kommer vir ons wees. Ons moet bid vir ons nasie. Ons moet bid vir elke burger in die land en die besonder vandag vir die boere en die plaaswerkers. Die huidige situasie is onaanvaarbaar. And I want to agree with the Honourable Lakota. We need, as responsible leaders, to watch our narrative. What are we saying in this nation? Are we building up or are we speaking death and destruction? The enemy comes to steal, rob and destroy. Let us follow the example of Jesus, who comes that we can have life and life in abundance. It is the primary role of the state to protect its citizens. And it is significant that whilst we have an unacceptably high murder rate in this nation of 34 people per 100,000, for farmers the figure is 97 per 100,000, almost 3 times the average amount. To put this into perspective, the rate for another high-risk group, police, is 52 per 100,000. And let us make it clear, it is not only farmers that are being attacked, and not only white farmers, it is across the board, but also farm workers. And so we need to pay more than lip service. We need to take action to address this issue. And we believe that whilst much has been done, far much more needs to be done. The other issue of great concern and alluded to by other honourable members is the level of brutality meted out in many of these incidents. The excessive violence and torture used is a huge issue of concern, and this needs to be addressed. And whilst we welcome speedy arrests and we welcome the improved rural safety that is being implemented, the SA Human Rights Commission, in its 2015 report, said that SAPS and the National Prosecuting Authority need to step up the involvement in combating crime affecting farm communities. And we also know that this is a threat to our food security if we do not address the situation as a matter of urgency. And as far back as 1998, former President Nelson Mandela warned that beyond the immediate human suffering, lack of security and stability in our rural and farming community, this also causes serious disruption to our economy, which obviously includes food production. So as we from the ACDP have said, when the commanders were replaced, we need to have improved. It was promised that rural safety will endure high priority. We believe that there is a high level of improvement that is required. We cannot fail our farmers, we cannot fail our farm workers, we cannot fail our citizens in society. Let us do more. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Semenya.
Thanks, Honourable House Chairperson, honourable members, and the guests at the gallery. Good afternoon. Honourable Chair, I think all of us, we know who Ntate Lukuta o na le allergy ya President Zuma, and it's his problem, it's not our problems. Honourable Chair, the act of violence and human rights violation on any segment of the population are condemned. As such, the alleged increase in farms murders and farm attacks should not be looked at in isolation with human rights of all who live and work in the farming communities, farm workers, farm owners, and farm dwellers. The South African Human Rights Commission has published a number of investigation reports on human rights violation in the farms, including the latest 2015 report on safety and security challenges in the farming communities. The often remote geographical location of farming communities make them vulnerable to human rights violation, including crime. Any criminal activity in farming community is a matter of concern due to the negative impact that such activities may have on the sustainability of farming and food production for the country. Official crime statistics that we receive from South African Police Service do not categorize crime as happened in the rural farming areas and urban areas. Therefore, it becomes hard talk about an increase in farm murders and farm attacks with conviction when there is no empirical data from independent research that shows that there are attacks that are specifically targeted at the farming community when compared to the rest of population, which is equally affected by the crime. In the interest of sustaining our agricultural sector and the country's food security, there is a need to discuss a human rights violation in any sector of agricultural sector, including the abuse of farm workers and farm dwellers. The previous reports of the SAHRC and a 2011 report by Human Rights Watch have widely documented human rights violation and abuse of farm workers and farm dwellers. In the recent weeks, we have also had an incident of shooting and killing of farm workers who were mistakenly for monkeys or watchdogs. The worrying factor is that we did not hear any condemnation from such killings by other farmers or people concerned with attacks on farming communities. While farm workers may not create jobs and contribute much to the national revenue regarding taxes, they remain a backbone of the agricultural sector. there are reasons that it is possible for South Africa to be food secured at national level and be the next exporter of South African products. Therefore, they are also entitled to basic human rights that are enshrined in the Chapter 2 of our Constitution, as much as the farm owners who feed the nation. To address the human rights violation in farming community in a holistic manner needs strengthened coordination amongst and between government departments in all spheres of government, industry role players, farm workers representatives, and non-governmental organizations. It must also be mentioned that central to the debate is our continued call for the strengthening of social cohesion to ensure that our nation achieve the value of a caring society, inspired by the traits of human compassion which inform our struggle against colonialism. Indeed, the need to build cooperation among South Africans is a responsibility of all South Africans. We also believe social cohesion is a national democratic society also depend, and it's in a national democratic society also depend on the extent to which the rights of those in the lower ranks of the socio-economic ladder are protected. As such, our society should proceed from the obvious premise that workers' rights are human rights, and these rights should find expression in law-governed measures to ensure decent jobs, job security, and living wage. Though through legislation and other means, the state should manage the environment for fair and balanced relation between employer and employees. We also call our public media to play a critical role in promoting social cohesion. There is also a need for additional research on the experience of farm dwellers and farm workers and farm owners, as has been recommended by the SAHRC in its 2005 report. It is emphasized that such research should be carried out by an independent and competent authority that has no interest in the matter and should be able also to highlight the positive cases that can serve as example for the rest of the farming community. One positive example of good farm owner and farm workers relationship is the Solom Delta Wine Estate in Franschhoek in area of Western Cape. The efforts of the Solomon and Alto families in developing their farm workers and incorporating them into the wine-making business are thus applauded. Tšhomišano mmogo ya badiredi le benyi dipolasa e bohlokwa go setšhaba sa gešo gore re dule re na le dijo ebile re šireletšegile mo South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Chaisa.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. As it has been alluded to by other previous speakers, as AIC also perturbed to learn that a human being was mistaken for an animal, then was shot in the head. Those are the things that we should not see happening in our democracy. In 1996, the South African Constitutional Settlement was formalized. Our political, social, and constitutional pact leaned towards a democratic establishment, underpinned by human rights, culture, social justice, freedom, and security. As a consequence, the state was to assume a vanguard role to advance the well-being of all South Africans. Section 7, subsection 2 of the Constitution places this obligation on the state in the following terms. The state must respect, protect, promote, and fulfill the rights in the Bill of Rights. Honorable Chair, the African Independent Congress leadership view on the state of farming communities in South Africa, including an evidence-based research and series of data survey, depicts a gloomy picture of sheer human rights violation in these communities. In an emotive telephonic interview with Dow SA President Mr. Louis Menges, we sought to understand Dow SA assessment of the state of farming communities. Honorable Chair, Mr. Menges ascribes 1, radical slogans of land invasion, 2, lack of political will to accept that farm killings are not ordinary crimes, 3, inadequate sector policing, and D, lack of government coherence to be behind these killings. According to an article by South Institute of Security Studies, on an average day, more than 49 people are murdered in South Africa. Dow SA reports that between 1990 and 2004, about 1,115 farm murderers, direct family members, and workers occurred, and that between 2005 and 2017, 738 farm murderers occurred. Honorable Chairperson, by any standard, this alarming rate of farm brutality cannot be accepted. It is not correct. The Human Rights Commission released a report in 2015 entitled Safety and Security Challenges in Farming Communities, which had been preceded by a series of hearings with government, farming interested groups, and unions. The general sentiment was that farmers and workers respectively were vulnerable, that farm attacks should be made a priority crime, and that terminology used to define killings be improved. The Human Rights Commission recommended that after the hearings that the South African Police Services and the National Prosecuting Authority condemn leak their involvement in
Honourable
combating
Member,
crimes.
your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Luama.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable members, statistics of unlawful eviction, exploitation, not allowing families to perform rituals on the graveyards of their ancestors are harrowing. We should stop this political romance or convenience of pleasing white farmers, who most of them do not care about the working conditions of farm workers. Arang SA believe that white farmers should stop vomiting on the forgiveness of black people, which has displayed itself since 1994. They should stop assaulting and murder of farm workers. They must assist in building social cohesion. While Arang SA is not condoning farm attacks or murders, white farmers should minimize their arrogance and recognize that things have changed and they have to share with black people. They must embrace non-racial society. Honorable Chair, if you go to most of this farm workers are treated like animals. When you go where they live, even pigs can go on strike to refuse to leave. But our people are subjected to these conditions by the same white farmers who have no mercy, very sadistic, deriving pleasure from the suffering of our people. The white farmers, like Honorable Chair, white farmers like everyone who benefited from the past, we should sacrifice to betterment of our people. It is the same white farmers who puts farm workers into coffins. It is the same white farmers who shot.
Honourable Luama, will you just take your seat, please? Will you sit down? Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
House Chairperson, it's a point of order, and I wish to refer to the annotated digest of rulings in this House. On the 28th of February, a member rose at a point of order to object to a statement made by another member, namely that, quote, white people in this country stole the wealth they have. There was a considered ruling from the presiding officer at the time, Dr. Ranchard, around the use of racial stereotyping, which he defined as referring to gross generalizations about alleged negative characteristics possessed by a group, whether made by white people about blacks, or for that matter made by blacks about whites. I would submit to you, House Chairperson, that there is a gross racial stereotyping of white farmers by the Honourable Pluama that has no place in this House, and the member was ordered to withdraw it in this particular ruling. I'd ask you to please apply your mind to that.
Honourable Member, I will check exactly what the member has said, but continue with your speech, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair, when a black person, they shot a black person mistaking them for a baboon. Organizations like Solidarity and Forum and Steve Hofmeyr kept quiet. It is our held view that those who commit such barbaric deeds invite hatred and revenge. Eviction of farm workers unlawfully from farms, it is another sign of undermining the gains of our democracy. In conclusion, white farmers must endeavor to create a beneficial relationship with the farm workers and their surrounding communities. We must inculcate the spirit of Ubuntu. They must show remorse and repugnancy it deserves when a farm worker or a member of a community is killed or murdered by a farmer. This will show and go a long way in harmonious living with communities. Communities will always be valuable in protecting farmers. But we all know that most of these farmers cursed the day democracy was ushered in South Africa. They must help in solving socio-economic problems of our society. Then we can isolate criminals who have no regards for human life.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
I thank you.
The next speaker is the Honourable Mbele.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Chairperson, it is absolutely despicable that we can have the kind of divisive racial rhetoric that is undermining of the reconciliation agenda in this country, as we've just heard. Those kinds of generalizations and stereotypes are exactly the reason why we'll continue to have divisions that keep us separated. Chairperson, Section 205, subsection 3 of our Constitution states that the objects of the police service are to prevent, combat, and investigate crime, to maintain public order, to protect and secure the inhabitants of the Republic and their property, and to uphold and enforce the law. On all these points, the SAPS is struggling and failing when it comes to crime in farm communities and the safety of farm dwellers. This, Chairperson, is not because we don't know what to do to improve safety and security in these communities. Rather, it is because the police service lacks the right leadership, both political and managerial, to address the problem. The SAPS is the key state institution for ensuring that all people live in safety, free from crime and violence, but it is failing in fulfilling that duty due to poor leadership and skewed priorities that undermine the fight against crime on the ground. The 2016 White Paper on Policing outlines that the police service must be rooted in a community-centered approach, a key demonstration of which is to be responsive to the vulnerabilities and policing needs of local communities. To quote the White Paper, at local level, the SAPS must be equipped to respond to the risks, vulnerabilities, and policing needs of the disparate communities it serves. This echoes the DA's long-standing call for the localization of policing through greater autonomy for police stations. Because crime threats vary drastically from community to community, the SAPS approach of centralized crime fighting often undermines the ability of police stations to respond to the very specific needs of their communities. In this regard, there are multiple instances of SAPS failure to be responsive, both structurally and operationally, to the local policing needs of farm communities. During a visit last month to the town of Belfast in Mpumalanga with my colleague, Honourable Steyn, following another farm attack, we heard from the local councillor about numerous examples of how the SAPS is hopelessly handicapped to do its job. In a context where one ward can sometimes be as large as encompassing 3 towns, one police station has to cover a geographically massive policing precincts. involving long traveling distances and usually covering multiple settlements. Secondly, outside of roads between and within towns, most vehicular travel has to be on gravel roads and sometimes on no roads at all. This terrain requires tougher, more agile police vehicles that can take hard knocks and won't be rendered useless after it rains because they get stuck in mud too easily. And lastly, the understaffing and inadequate number of police vehicles means that when a suspect is in custody and has to be transported to another town for a court appearance, normal sector policing operations are deprived of the cars and officers they need for visible patrolling and rapid response. Chairperson, the SAPS is also missing a huge opportunity in the fight against farm attacks and other crimes in rural areas when it comes to police reservists. The white paper on policing is clear that the effective use of reservists contributes to strengthening policing at station level and the implementation of crime prevention initiatives. So this is what the DA would do to improve the safety and security of farm communities and to reduce farm attacks, because heaven knows the ANC is not going to get around to getting it done anytime soon. Firstly, Chairperson, we would give greater budgetary freedom because often station commanders are prevented from adapting resource allocation according to their specific needs because of centralized bureaucratic practice in the SAPS. The DA would give more discretionary management authority for these decisions to be localized so that stations could deal with problems more effectively. For example, given that policing precincts usually cover a large area, a station commander would be free to ensure the operation of a larger number and spread of satellite police stations. Secondly, we would allow for the local sourcing of equipment. Under a DA government, police stations would be allowed to procure equipment and services directly from approved local suppliers based on station needs. This means that they would be sure, for example, to get the right kind of vehicle for their context, instead of being subject to decisions from higher up in the hierarchy that are ill-suited for their needs. It also means that vehicles would not languish at a centralized SAPS garage for weeks or months on end for repairs or maintenance, while communities are poorly protected by an under-resourced and under-equipped police service. And thirdly, Chair, we would boost operational personnel numbers with a strong reservist corps. The DA would ensure rigorous vetting and training coupled with strong accountability to ensure that volunteer reservist behavior and conduct is in line with the ethos and expectations of permanent SAPS members. The DA stands ready to lead a national government that will fix the police service and ensure safety and security for all, in particular farming communities. In order for us as a nation to harness the full potential of our people, we need safe homes and safe streets. The DA is becoming the hope of more and more citizens to realize the dream of a country free from fear, and we must stand together to condemn all farm attacks as vile, disgusting, despicable, and deplorable, and only under the DA can we defeat this evil. I thank you.
The next speaker is the Honourable the Minister of Police.
Chairperson, honourable members, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity. We certainly find all the inputs invaluable and critical as this August House ponders on the pressing issues of farm matters and farm attacks, and their bearing on the farming community, food security, and economic development. Therefore, it is appropriate that we are having this debate today, as we surely must, robustly and sincerely. We must continue debating matters that perturb the nation and do so in an illuminating manner that helps build our nation. The African National Congress since 1912 premised its vision of a new society on values such as equality before the law, justice, and a fundamental respect for human rights. Furthermore, As clearly articulated in the Freedom Charter and the Constitution, the ANC regards the right to life as one of the cornerstones of a democratic and civilized society. Indeed, all lives matter, and farm matters are a cause for concern, as are matters of any human being in our country, irrespective of race, class, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or country of origin. As a leader of society, the ANC and its government are committed to the safety and security of all, and this includes those South Africans who constitute our farming community. We understand the vulnerability of farmers when it comes to various conduct crimes and have no desire whatsoever to trivialize the killings and attacks on our compatriots who happen to be farmers and are mostly white. Farm killings have got to be understood within the bigger context of criminality in our country. And while they are a major concern, it is pertinent that we do not unduly exaggerate them, nor give an impression that there is a widespread political campaign to kill white farmers or drive them into the sea. Crime statistics from the South African Police Service show that from 2001, criminal incidents on farms have been markedly declining in recent years. In the 2001-2002 period, for an example, there were 1,069 incidents on farms with 103 murders. Meanwhile, in the 2015-2016 period, the number of criminal incidents decreased to 457, with subsequent murders reduced to 50. This represents a decrease of about 57% in the total number of reported incidents and a decrease of 51% on murders. A closer look at the 2016-2017 period, quarterly statistics reveal that both the number of reported incidents and the number of farm murders have been declining. In the first quarter, we reported 112 incidents with 19 murders. Those numbers were reduced to 102 reported incidents with 11 murders in the second quarter. In the third quarter, the number of incidents went down to 93, with the subsequent number of farm murders slightly rising to 16. The ANC government continues to use insightful crime-fighting strategies to ensure that our farming communities are safe and secure. A loss of life, ladies and gentlemen, is one too many. Thus, these statistics are by no means celebratory. We are proud of efforts and strategies that the ANC and its government have implemented to reduce crime on farms and protect all citizens. The SAPS's rural safety strategy is beginning to yield good results. Out of 479 rural police stations in the country, the strategy has been fully implemented in 432 of those. The SAPS is working tirelessly to channel critical resources and roll out the strategy in the remaining 47 police stations. We have also increased the number of blue light patrols and compliance inspections in such areas and continue to work with affected farming communities to ensure that policing safety is a shared responsibility. We take this opportunity to condemn reckless and insightful statements that effectively mislead our people to illegally occupy farmlands. The rule of law must be adhered to, even in matters of land redress. The vision for radical economic transformation also speaks to this categorical imperative. There is value in making land issues a unifier rather than a source of divisions, mistrust, and a threat to social cohesion. The founding provisions of our Constitution are set, among others, human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancement of human rights and freedoms, and further that all citizens are equally entitled to the rights, privileges, and benefits of all citizenship. Apartheid divided our people and allocated the benefits of citizenship in favor of the white population of our land. The architects of that evil system divided black people into subgroups on the basis of culture and language as a ploy to foster disunity and mistrust among them. Excuse me. Therefore, when the Constitution directs us to ensure equality and equal enjoyment of rights and privileges, it is also expected of us to look into how we frame the challenges of our time. For if we are not careful, we may find ourselves perpetuating a sense of exclusion and separation when we should be promoting inclusion and national unity. The apartheid inheritance of underdevelopment and underserviced rural areas continues to haunt us today. It therefore does not help to single out one particular category of our rural constituency, farmers, and discuss their safety and security challenges when such challenges actually relate to the broader rural constituency as a whole. Rural vulnerabilities which arise as a result in particular of the lack of police and other infrastructure such as roads, as well as the vastness of the landscapes of mission areas are features that characterize our rural context generally. And therefore what we should be highlighting are challenges and solutions that seek to resolve these difficulties, confronting all our people who live and or work in these areas. We all love our farmers, but our love for the farmers must not be parochial. This love must teach us to love and care for all our people in rural areas. It must develop into a universal love for all humanity regardless of race, gender, sex, or social status. Love that places the poor at the apex of our priorities, for they are by far the most vulnerable. The sooner we overcome the socially disadvantaged condition of the poor, the better shall be our prospects of winning the war against crime. The Constitution allows us to develop beyond our narrow confines, to learn to love, protect and defend all South Africans and all human life. To understand and better respond to crime in rural settings, we must focus on the totality of the context through which crime finds expression, and not on narrow interests that actually define the origins of our social consciousness. We must seek a good life for all, not systematically for some. A just approach shall assure us all of a stable future. Chairperson, the late South African judge, Judge Didcot, asserts exactly this particular point when he correctly warned in 1988, I quote, "What a Bill of Rights cannot afford to hear is to protect private property with such zeal that it entrenches privilege. A major problem which any future South African government is bound to face will be the problem of poverty, of its alleviation, and of the need for the country's wealth to be shared more equitably." Close quote. Thank you very much, Chair and ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, the next item on the order paper is a subject for discussion in the name of the Honourable Ms. van der Merwe on the South African Social Security Agency's grant payment crisis and the steps taken to deal with the matter. I now request the Honourable van der Merwe to introduce the subject.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson, as our economy grinds to a halt and poverty deepens, more than 17 million South Africans rely on the state for a social grant. For many families, it's their only hope of survival. So why then would a government that purports to care for the most vulnerable in our society force this country into a grant payment crisis? Well, the obvious culprits are maladministration, gross negligence, and incompetence. But this is not all. At the heart of this crisis is a dodgy tender, a rogue minister, and a ruling party that no longer cares for the poor. But there are many other culprits involved in this SASSA scandal too. One culprit is the president himself. When I asked the president last year about the illegal deductions from grant recipients and the involvement of CPS, the current company that pays out grants on behalf of the state, he simply laughed at me and said, "I must raise the issue with the minister." When I asked the Minister about the pending grant crisis, she simply said that I've asked her this question before. Some ANC MPs are to blame for this crisis too. While the scandal unfolded over the past months, ANC MPs and the Portfolio Committee acted like professional thugs. On this issue, we were shut down, called to order, and insulted. These ANC MPs went as far as answering questions on the Minister's behalf. And in fact, the only meaningful contribution they made in the committee was to point out that there was no numbers on the presentations. Another obvious culprit, of course, is the Speaker. Here in this House, she's allowed the Minister of Social Development to duck and dive, avoiding questions and accountability. Like the true Houdini of politics, the Minister is often nowhere to be found. And in her absence, she's left officials to face the music, which has resulted in the public and MPs being furnished with lies, lies, and more lies. So at the heart of this crisis is a deficiency of accountability, which has now become a trademark of how the ANC rules this country. And another culprit, of course, is the Minister herself. Sidestepping her responsibilities at a recent press conference, Minister Batabile Dlamini launched a scathing attack on the media, which must be condemned. In the obscure universe she and her spokesperson lived in, they rocked up to a press conference with bad attitudes, no new info, and just another tall tale that everything was going to be okay, like true con artists. It is important to remember that the Constitutional Court gave this minister 3 years to sort out her mess. But what did Minister Dlamini do? Nothing. She ignored the court, she ignored the post office, and she ignored Treasury. So what has Minister Dlamini been doing apart from nothing? Well, she filed her duties to the nation somewhere out of sight and went campaigning to become the president of the ANC Women's League. Throughout 2016, she played the role... Throughout 2016, she played the role of...
Honourable Van der Merwe, can you just take your seat? Who's calling for a point of order? Yes, Honourable Member. On which rule are you standing?
House Chairperson, I'm raising a point of order on Rule 89.
Yes, Honourable Member.
On Rule 89, this honourable member, he keep on reflecting on something that this thing is still in court, it's still pending. And magaloga kuluma something
Okay.
bengafanele nje nokudebate ukuthi ngaze ifakwe la while it's still in court. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Van der Merwe, will you just take your seat, please? Honourable Member, the Speaker and the Programming Committee has allowed this debate to continue, and I will allow the Honourable Member to continue as such. Continue, Honourable Member.
That honourable member doesn't want all the skeletons to come out of the closet, so sit down. Throughout 2016, the minister played the role of President Zuma's protector, and as April 1 drew closer, Minister Dlamini kept her eyes firmly on her work as an ANC leader, giving her work to the people no attention at all. Today, we need Minister Dlamini to take personal and political responsibility for this crisis by vacating her office, failing which President Zuma must act. But we know that calling on President Zuma to remove Minister Dlamini will be a futile exercise because they're besties, and both individuals have demonstrated very little understanding or respect for the rule of law. Honourable House Chairperson, the IFP therefore proposes the following as a way forward. Firstly, the Speaker must institute sanctions against Minister Dlamini for having misled this House in November last year when she told us that her department was on track to pay grants themselves. The IFP will request the establishment of an ad hoc committee to probe the illegalities and corruption pertaining to the CPS tender and the crisis at SASSA. We do so because it's clear that our social development system has been captured and our Minister of Social Development has been captured. We need to get to the bottom of why Minister Dlamini is hell-bent on extending an unlawful billion-rand contract to a white foreign-owned company that faked their BEE credentials. The BEE frontmen are said to be Brian and Lunga is allegedly very close to Minister Dlamini. He even paid her travel gate bill. So the worry now is that in this case, SASSA and CPS are directing millions to someone we just don't know who. This dodgy deal warrants nothing less than a parliamentary inquiry, and we support the calls for the public...
Honourable Member, please take your seat. Yes, Honourable Member.
The Rule 82. I'm speaking to respectful terms. No name to impugn the dignity of any member of this House should be used. Then when there are reflections on the minister's name, that is 85-2. We need a substantive motion because you're speaking about Scandalgate now and we're not discussing it. Thank you.
Honorable van der Merwe, the allegation that you said made remarks that may impugn the dignity of the minister needs to be made by a substantive motion.
Deputy
Unless
Speaker,
you
I
do
said
it- unless-
allegedly, so I think we must look at the Hansard because I
Yes.
also didn't refer to a scandal gate but to a travel gate. So I don't think
Yes.
the member heard me.
Yes, I'm warning you, ma'am, that if you continue to do the order, honorable member, no matter how strongly you feel, if the language you use goes against the rules that you have accepted must be used, then it will be ruled out of order. I have warned you, so you proceed. Order, honorable members.
Deputy Speaker,
Yes, Honorable Singh.
rising on a point of order, and in particular to Rule 82(3).
Yes.
And not impugn or whatever else, but impugn.
Yes.
On the dignity of a member. No way did the Honourable van der Merwe impugn on the dignity of the Honourable Minister. All she referred to was a matter that was a public knowledge many, many years ago, and that's all she said.
Honourable
There's
member.
no dignity that has been impugned.
Honorable
So-
Singh, thank you very much for your wise observations. I have ruled on this matter. Honorable van der Merwe, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the Minister of Social Development has defied the Constitutional Court. She's defied Treasury regulations. She's broken her oath of office and placed at risk the most vulnerable whom she's meant to protect. Is that enough to get her removed from her position? Under normal circumstances, surely yes. But in a country ruled by an ANC that has lost its moral
Honorable
fibre,
member,
clearly
your time
no.
has expired.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Minister of Social Development. Order. Order. Members in the gallery, we welcome your presence but not your participation. Please be quiet and not get involved in the affairs of the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mbata.
Can the minister take a question?
Minister, would you like to take a question?
No.
Honorable Minister?
No.
The answer is no, sir. Take your
But
seat.
she's busy eating a grant.
Honorable member.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to set the record straight. In the process, allay the fears of social grant beneficiaries and ordinary South Africans who have been confused by the prophets of doom and those who want to portray themselves as moral saviors, as well as those who want to deepen this crisis. Social grants will be paid on the 1st of April. From the outset, I would like to reiterate the assurance
Deputy
of
Speaker.
the President of the Republic of South Africa,
order,
Mr.
honorable
Jacob
members.
Zuma, that there is
Honorable
no
members,
crisis
order,
at SASSA.
order. Honorable
All
Minister.
eligible
Honorable Minister, can you just give me a moment? Honorable members in the gallery, I requested you. It's not allowed to participate by way of clapping or ululating in any form that suggests you are participating in the affairs of the House. Please be with us respectfully. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, please proceed.
From the outset, I would like to reiterate the assurance of the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Jacob Zuma, that there is no crisis at SASSA. All eligible social grant beneficiaries will receive their money on 1st April and beyond, as well as the recommendation by Senior Counsel Trent Groove. This government inherited a social security system that was fragmented and coordinated and skewed towards meeting the needs of the selected few. The mandate to reform our social security system arises from Section 27 of the Constitution, which states that everyone has the right to access social security, including if they are unable to support themselves and their dependents. 23 years into our democracy, it is important to ask ourselves, how far has this government gone towards progressive realization of the right to access to social security as the Constitution clearly provides? Kumele sizibuze ukuthi emva kweminyaka eyamashumi.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Yes, Honourable
Deputy
Member.
Speaker, is it parliamentary for the minister to wear ANC colours in Parliament?
Honourable Minister, please proceed. We'll rule on that.
Wenzeni uhulumeni kaKhongolose ukugcina lo myalelo womthetho sisekelo? We have without fail been paying the right grant to the right person at the right time and place, njalo, since SASSA's establishment 10 years ago. We will continue doing so without fail come 1st April this year and beyond. The mandate of SASSA is to ensure the provision of comprehensive social security against vulnerability and poverty within the constitutional and legislative framework of our country. The agency has touched and changed many lives of our people for the better. Despite the challenges the agency experienced in its infancy stage, it has and continues without fail to deliver on its core mandate of providing a cushion to the poor against the economic shocks and factors beyond their control. Today, South Africa is ranked as one of the countries with the most extensive and progressively targeted social security system. The number of people receiving grants increased from 2.4 million in 1998 to over 70 million to date. And umangabe sifika la kuhulumende, abantu babethi imali yama grant iyamosha. Manje ngoba abantu sebe u17 million, bonke abantu sebeyawafuna ama grant. Abanye sebe masha nabantwana, abasacabanga ukuthi lokho ku wrong. Wonke umuntu ohola igrant unendaba yethemba ehambisana negrant. Siqala ngomama uNogate Maya. Indaba kaMama uNogate ohlala elalini yaseMqanduli e-Eastern Cape enye yalezi ndaba. Umama uNogate uhola impesheni e-1530 ehhovisi lakwamzamomhle. Kuqala umama ono 110 bekufanele ukuthi ahambe amakilomita awu32 eya eMthatha eyothola impesheni yakhe ebhange noma eposini
Honourable Minister,
laseMqanduli.
please take your seat. Yes, Honourable Mhlongo.
No, I wanted to know from the minister whether the schools are closed today, Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Member, that's not a point of order. What are you raising on?
No, I wanted to know whether the schools are closed today.
No, take your seat. Proceed, Honourable Minister.
Bekufanele ukuthi kwesinye isikhathi umama aboleke noma ubaba aboleke u40 rand ukuze akwazi ukuthi ahambe ayohola agibele evenini engamvikeli futhi emenza ukuthi angabi nesithunzi. Kodwa namhlanje umama unoGate uya ku PayPoint esemqandule. And udinga isithupha sakhe kuphela ukuthi ahole igrant. Umama unoGate is one of many stories of hope, a story of improving the quality of life and restoring the dignity of our people that SASSA has brought to many rural people throughout the country, from Muyeshe in Limpopo, Jozin in KwaZulu-Natal to Skumansdal in Mpumalanga. The opposition claims that there is a crisis at SASSA, is therefore nothing more than a mere self-serving propaganda and political grandstanding of the highest order. They must stop with their scare campaign, which has caused public panic and anxiety. Baqhuba i-agenda bayiqala ngokhetho, bafike babuza umbuzo, baphendulwa ngempendulo eyayikade ithathwe ka-Stats SA. Bahambe bethi iSouth Africa yonke sithe igrant izokwehliswa. Manje bayayijabulisa ngokuthi bathi hayi angeke isaholwa igrant. And this they are doing to remove the authority of the African National Congress, the governing party. By their own admission, the post office considered that they will not be able to offer a convenient payment solution anytime soon without the assistance of the current service provider. More importantly, the post office does not have technological and operational solution to deliver the grants to beneficiaries without limitation or inconvenience. Also, more than 100 post offices have been closed. But also, SAPO wants to use a voucher system that that is not clear on how we are going to prevent the duplication of payment systems. The solution yet again requires the assistance of the present company. Similarly, the banking infrastructure requires beneficiaries to travel approximately 22 kilometers to receive their social grant instead of 5 kilometers stipulated in the norms and standards by SASSA.
Yes, Honorable Waters.
Chairperson, will the Minister take a simple question?
Honorable Minister, please.
No.
Why not?
The answer is no. No, take your seat. Proceed, Honorable Minister.
But one other important thing that we must specify here is that we are not going to allow anyone to enforce PIN verification in this system. Secondly, we want to say that on a monthly basis, Green Road returns the interest to SASSA. From July 2016 to February 2017, they have returned 10.9 million. Okunye esifuna ukusho ukuthi we don't want this thing.
Out of order, Speaker.
What's your point of order? What are you raising on?
Speaker, I rise on point 31, that the refusal of the minister to take questions is actually the violation of the right of this House to hold the minister accountable.
All right.
Can the minister take a simple question, please? NgesiZulu. Sayibuza ngesiZulu.
Honorable Minister, just respond to
Angeke
the question.
nguthathe umbuzo Speaker, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
Okunye okubalekile.
Point of order, Chair.
What's your point of order?
Yeah. With due respect, Deputy Speaker, the Minister read a very confusing number. Can she read it again?
Honorable member, take your seat and listen.
I'm
Take
willing
your
to
seat.
take a seat, but
No,
really,
take your seat.
that number is confusing.
Honorable Mbati, ulilungu elihloniphekile.
I have a right to hear
Sicela
a
ukuthi-
correct number.
Sicela ukuthi siqhubeke nokuhlonipha.
I'm
Ihansard
confused.
izokutshela. Hlala phansi,
I
honorable
need a
member.
right to have a
Honorable
correct
member,
number.
Hlala phansi. Sibambe umthetho. Proceed, honorable minister.
Okunye esifuna ukukubalula ukuthi social grant beneficiaries are not for sale. So wonke umuntu ofuna ukuza neprogram akangafike ebelethe ingane ngoba wonke umuntu ufika ingathi msulwa ebelethe ingane ngemuva. Njengamanje sinama pay points awu 10,000. Okunye okulandelayo ukuthi amabhange njalo ngenyanga athola 70 million just for swiping cards of grant beneficiaries. And then enye into efanele siyazi uGreen Road njengamanje ama-owners akhona amanye awu-Rembrandt nabanye. uRembrandt uno 35% wama-shares kuGreen Road. Efanele sibuze umbuzo ukuthi yini indaba kuliwa kangaka. Indaba enkulu iwukuthi manje umholo siyawuthatha siwuyisa ebantwini. Economic activity must take place where our people are. And kuyeke ukuthi kube ama-big retailers athola i-interest ngemholo yabantu bakithi. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Honorable Masango. The honorable members.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, last week I submitted a prior application for the contract between the Department of Social Development and Net1 Cash Paymaster Services for the distribution of 17 million grants to the poorest of the poor in our country.
On the point of order, Chair.
Yes, honorable member. Honorable
Thank you,
Masango,
Chair.
please take your seat.
Thank you, Chair. Benguza ukuthi member can she take a question?
Honorable Masango.
No, I will not be.
The answer is no, honorable member. Proceed, honorable member.
The response was that there is
All the honorable members, can we be quiet?
The response was that there is no contract between CPS and the South African Social Security Agency, with 2.5 weeks to go until the current invalid contract with CPS expires, and no alternate plan to ensure grants will be paid. This is an unbelievable example of recklessness and hopeless inability of Social Development Minister Usisu Dlamini, who has put the livelihoods of millions of our people at risk. It is now blatantly clear that she has done all in her power to avoid having to produce any contract for the Constitutional Court scrutiny and possible adverse comment.
Point of order, Chair.
Honorable Masango, please take. Yes, honorable member.
Ngiku rule 66B. Ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi njengoba iDA bimasha kwakhona ingane zabantu abamnyama kuphela zazilapha ezabelungu.
On a point of order, Deputy Speaker. Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
That's not a point of order. Proceed, honorable member.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, it sounds like the shoe is fitting and the members must just wear it. It is now blatantly clear that she has done all in her power to avoid having to produce any contract for the Constitutional Court scrutiny and possible adverse comments, something that Net1 CPS has openly admitted they wish to avoid. It is also clear that in a day that this minister is desperate.
Honorable Masango, just please take a seat. Yes, honorable member, what are you rising on?
I'm rising on rule number 83. Which says that a member must, as far as possible, refrain from reading his or her speech. Thank you. The member is always reading. That's not a poem. She must.
Honorable member.
She must just refresh.
Honorable member. Honorable Masango, please proceed.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yes, what are you raising, honorable member?
I'm rising on point 89, where the honorable member is addressing the merits which are sitting pending in the courts. So she must distance herself from the merits that she's talking about, about the Constitutional Court. I thank you.
Honorable Masango, please proceed. We will deal with the issues as they arise. Please proceed.
Deputy Speaker.
No, honorable member. What are you raising on?
So it's all right for ANC members to rise, but not members of the opposition.
Honorable member, sorry?
It's all right for members of the ANC to rise on points of order. But
no, I'm asking you, what are you raising on?
I'm rising on a previous ruling made in this House about vexatious points of order. It is very clear that the strategy of the ANC whippery is to disrupt the speakers in the House. This is a House of debate. Members must be allowed to put their points across in a debate. These frivolous points of order are not advancing the debate or assisting this House. And I would ask you to rule on that.
Honorable Masango, please proceed. Honorable members, let's proceed. Honorable members, you won't shout at me to do that. I object to instruct me to rule. You know that rulings can be done by a presiding officer when he chooses to do so at the appropriate time. Honorable Masango, proceed, please.
The CEO of SASSA, Thokozani Makwaza, told the media recently that the minister blocked all his efforts to report back to the Constitutional Court, which she was obliged to do, about the payment of social grants, and that she personally interfered when he tried to find a solution to the crisis. When the agency was about to petition the court for guidance early last month, she issued 11th-hour instructions to block the process. She has desperately and determinedly ensured that there is no communication with the highest court in the land on an issue which affects millions and millions of South Africans. The same CEO booked into hospital due to stress and has been off sick for 2 weeks. And according to reports, his acting CEO, Tamo Mzobe, was also hospitalized with the same condition. And last week, Social Development Director General Zain Dango resigned. What we have here, Deputy Speaker, is a case of honest officials, and there are many of them coming head to head.
Yes, what are you rising on?
Can Member Vasilina take a question?
Honorable Masango? The answer is no. Take your seat, honorable member.
Stop misleading the House.
Honorable member, don't even try that. Honorable member, you're not supposed to be making statements when you are not allowed to do so. When the decision is made that you are not going to be responded to, please obey the rulings of the chair and allow members to proceed. Proceed, honorable member.
But Chair, she's misleading the House.
Honorable member. Proceed, honorable member.
What we have here is a case of honest officials, and there are many of them coming head to head with the truly ominous agenda of the minister, and indeed the president, to keep this corrupt contract at all costs. To be playing games like this with 17 million South Africans at this critical stage is scandalous and should see her removed immediately. The whole country is seized with this crisis. The DA will not rest until we get to the bottom of this sorry saga. We will not rest until we have answers and accountability. And the minister stood here earlier on and said that someone is trying to remove the authority of the ANC. Well, the person that's doing that single-handedly, successfully, is the minister, Batabile Dlamini. Thank you so much.
Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Sorry, honorable member, there's someone speaking here. Yes, honorable member, what are you rising on?
Yes, I would like to know if the member of the podium is willing to take a question.
Bring it on.
Why are you wearing the EFF regalia in the House?
Honorable member, please proceed.
Deputy Speaker, I don't think that deserves an answer. I will not honor it. Deputy Speaker,
Isizathu soba sibe lapha namhlanje is not about SASSA paying out money or grants to the people on the 1st of April. Kodwa isizathu esisibeka apha namhlanje is a matter of principle. Isizathu esisibeka apha namhlanje is a matter of abantu from president we-ANC no minister uBathabile Dlamini abangafuni ukumamela i-court. While a lot can be said about the social grant crisis, we must not be misled, and South Africans must know. It is only a sick government that is willing to put in jeopardy the only social security that exists for more than 17 million South Africans who depend on these grants for food. It is only when we have a constitutional delinquent as a president that ministers and government officials will willy-nilly ignore the constitutional court. What is a fact is that Minister Bathabile Dlamini has done everything in her powers, including undermining the constitutional court to ensure that the country has no other option.
Please take your seat. Yes, Honourable Member.
Honourable Member on the podium has referred to His Excellency President Zuma as a constitutional delinquent, and we would like him to remove that.
It's a political statement. Honourable Member. Thank you. Proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you. It is a fact that the Minister Bathabile Dlamini has done everything in her powers, including undermining the constitutional court, to ensure that the country has no other option but to continue with the unconstitutional and illegal contract with ECPS. Let alone the fact that this contract has been declared unconstitutional and illegal more than 2 years ago. What is a fact is that Minister Bathabile Dlamini went further to prevent the CEO and SASSA and the former DG who resigned because of toxic working relationship with the minister to do the right thing and obey the constitutional court ruling. What is also a fact that is confirmed by the National Treasury and the Minister of Finance at Scopa this morning is a fact that the Minister Bathabile Dlamini has been hell-bent in undermining the National Treasury's assistance in putting and solving the crisis. We are being held ransom, we are being robbed, we are being disrespected, and all of this because of parasital attitude, greed, and corruption. The ANC is insulting our intelligence, and it is insulting the voters. It is now clear for everyone to see that the ANC is not only anti-black, but is also anti-poor. We are facing here the money laundering scheme by CPS, Green Road, and SASSA. The 10 million that has been accrued, what are you doing with it? What is the greatest threat is not that grants will not be paid on 1st April, but the greatest threat is minister who is willing to be in contempt of the highest court in the land to keep a corrupt and illegal contracts that benefits their friends, their families, and close comrades. Now the step that we must put forward are, the EFF want to put on record that we want social grants to be paid on the 1st of April. Not some, but everyone. The EFF reiterate that under no circumstances should SASSA and Department of Social Development enter into a contract with CPS or anyone that is in violation of provisions of the constitutions. The EFF calls for Minister Bathabile Dlamini to step down with immediate effect to avoid rendering our constitutional order into a mockery. The minister's conduct in this whole saga is not only despicable, but must be condemned. The EFF further calls for the establishment of a state bank with footprint across the country, with a cost-efficient system to pay grants through its offices, mobile operations, work with the post bank, and also more localized government structures such as municipalities. It is such crisis that reminds us why is the key government to build capacity and not outsource critical functions such as payment of social grants. You must go.
Ngiyathokoza uqosha ithuba mhlonishwa sekela somlomo egameni lenkatha inkululeko yesizwe ngiyafisa uqinisekisa abantu bakithi ukuthi asimelene nokuthi bahole ngomhla ka1 sifuna impela abantu bonke ngomhla ka1 bahole bayithola imali yabo iphelele njengoba injalo The issue at hand here is not whether grants will be paid or not, but the issue is the minister hell-bent on continuing an illegal and unlawful contract with CPS when the Constitutional Court has told her such. In fact, what is happening is that CPS is receiving 2.3 billion rands of our money as South Africans. We are giving money to an American and Australian-owned company, 2.3 billion rands. What happens to the radical economic transformation when you ship off billions out of the country? The corruption of CPS is there for everybody to see. Bantu bakithi, ungqongqoshe ufuna kuqhubeke niholelwe inkampani ekuyiyona enithathela imali yenu ithenga ama-airtime, ekuyiyona enikeza imishwalense umgunyathi, imali ithola ingaphelele. Sizolwa lokho lapho ukuthi ayekwe le nkampani entshontsha imali yabantu ungqongqoshe ayithanda kangaka. Yiyo into esiyikhulumayo, hayi ukuthi abantu abangaholi, imali ayiholwe, but the relationship between CPS and the ANC is continuing because the ANC benefits through food parcels with this very company which is funding the ANC's campaign.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I rise on rule number 85. The member here says that there's a company that's stealing the monies of the people of South Africa, which I think is misleading. And the member understands very well. If that is the case, you know that it needs to be given in a form of a substantive motion.
Hey.
No, proceed, honorable member.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, go and learn your rules, honorable member. I'm talking about a company, not a member of this house. You continuously raise these points of orders for attention, and you waste our time here. Don't teach me the rules. I know the rules. Don't waste our time. On
a point of
Honorable
order,
Deputy Speaker, the minister had 3 years to deal with this crisis, and she sat down and did nothing for 3 years. She is now holding a political gun to her.
Honorable Hlengwa, please, when I ask you to stop, do stop, because you see, members know that the conduct of the debate must happen properly. On both sides of the House, between the speaker here on the podium and those of you on the benches, it is appropriate that you allow each other to debate properly and so on. So when I request you to stop, it's so that I enable us an opportunity to hear what the issue is. What are you raising on, honorable member?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Member Petro Moya is addressing me, and he knows very well he's not supposed to address me, but you.
Honorable member, no. Oh, proceed, honorable member.
Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, may I address you in terms of Rule 80 of the National Assembly rules?
Yes, honorable.
Deputy Speaker, I noticed you turned the Honourable Schlingwa's microphone off, which is your power to do so, but only once you've satisfied Rule 82. And that's before proceeding in terms of Sub-Rule 1, the presiding officer must, not may, must inform the member and the House of the intention to do so.
Honourable
member, that you uphold the rules you are trying to apply to.
Yeah. Honourable member, Honourable Steenhuisen, I asked Honourable Hlengwa to take his seat earlier on, and he continued, no, honourable members, honourable member, you will listen to me, I listen to you quietly. Angikuxupanga udla. Ngikulalela kahle waze waqeda. Manje mase uhleli phansi usuyangimemeza manje ngingakwazi ukukhuluma. Ngicela silalelane. Harasa mamelana hona ntwe tla tsamang hantle hayi. Le nngwe hayi e tla tsamang hantle kopa re mamelane. Ha o kwa kwala ditsebe fela hanyane fela. O kwale molomo. Ditsebe di dula di buleile taba tla tsamang hantle. Honorable members, all I'm saying is that I requested Honorable Hlengwa to take his seat so that I must be able to hear what the member is saying. He continued to talk. And I said to him, don't do that again. The rules require of us to warn him. When a member does not even hear when I'm saying this and he continues to talk, I have a responsibility to point out that he should do so. And one of the things I did that consciously, Honorable Member, so that I draw his attention to that rule which he knows. And it applies to all of you in the House, honorable members, that when you are requested to obey the rules, please do so. Proceed, honorable member.
Deputy Speaker, with respect, the rules bind you as a presiding officer as well.
I know that.
If you're unhappy with Rule 82, may I suggest you take it to the Rules Committee and ask them to review it.
Okay.
But please don't break the rules in the interim.
Okay. Honorable member, please proceed.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I must apologize. Like President Zuma, I was in full flight. I did not hear.
On a point of order.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the issue at hand here is that.
Speaker, on a point of order.
Honorable member, honorable, please take your seat. Don't debate with the honorable member, please. Honorable Bongo.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm rising in terms of Rule 85(1). It says that no member may impugn improper motive to any other member or cast personal reflection upon a member's integrity or dignity, or verbally abuse a member in any other way. So the reflection by Honorable Hlengwa, as he was continuing about the minister, they are casting aspersions and doubt on the integrity of the minister. And I would want you to rule on that so that he can withdraw those aspersions that he has cast.
Honorable Bongo, I will read the Hansard and I'll come back to the House to indicate whether what you are saying is as you say it. I will do that. Proceed, Honorable.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, in the final analysis, the fact of the matter is that the minister has aided and abetted this crisis, having sat and done nothing for 3 years. After the Concord told her to intervene, she did nothing. SASSA lied to us and said they would have the capacity to deal with this matter. They do not have that capacity. Our only option is now to enter into a contract with a bunch of crooks in the name of CPS. The minister must do the honorable thing and resign. She is no longer fit for purpose. She's a threat to the social stability of this country, and she must not in any way think that we'll take this lying down. We can't allow this to go on. Finally, you can rent a crowd here.
Honorable
Indictment
member,
that the gallery is so full. Unemployment is obviously very high in this country.
Your time has expired. Honorable Shelembe.
Deputy Speaker, the controversy which surrounds the payment of grants at the end of this month has caused many of our most poor and vulnerable people a great deal of unnecessary anxiety. Moreover, the controversy has opened up a can of political worms, giving rise to more and more questions. We have seen how an irregular contract between SASSA and CPS was declared invalid by the highest court in the country in 2014. We have also seen how SASSA and the Department of Social Development played cat and mouse with the Constitutional Court since to ensure that a situation was created in which there was no alternative but to continue to engage the services of CPS despite the invalidity of the agreement. The water becomes increasingly murky with the recent revelations of Mr. Thokozani Magwaza, the CEO of SASSA, that the Minister of Social Development blocked several of his attempts to report back to the Constitutional Court about the payment of social grants, and at other times, she directly interfered with attempts to find a solution to the crisis. The latest episode in this unfolding saga, which reeks of corruption, is the revelation that President Jacob Zuma's special advisor, Mr. Michael Haley, played a key role to ensure that Cash Paymaster Services would retain the lucrative contract to deliver more than 17 million social grants to recipients. There is only one way to describe this entire saga, and that is scandalous. Having said that, Chairperson, the NFP reiterates its position that government should not be allowed to outsource its responsibilities to private sector. It is the function of the government to look after the welfare of our people, and the payment of social grant ranks high on the list of government social responsibility next to education, healthcare, and safety. Government has access to enormous resources and has the infrastructure to ensure prompt and efficient grant payments without high cost associated with outsourcing this function. The NFP is of the opinion that the payment of grants should ideally be a function within the jurisdiction of the National Treasurer, and that the state entities such as the Post Office together with the banks should be brought on board to develop a system of grant payments. Finally, the NFP is of the opinion that the Minister of Social Development has failed in to ensure that alternative measures be put in place to deal with the payment of grant.
So, Honorable Shembe, you also are ignoring me.
I thank you.
No, Honorable Member, take your seat. Just take your seat, yes. You still have 7 seconds. What are you rising on, Honorable Member?
No, Deputy Speaker, be ke kgopela go tseba ge e le gore leloko leo le ka tšea potšišo mare ke bona ekare ba šetse a feditše a gona molato.
Okay, proceed, Honorable Member. Finish your 7 seconds.
Thank you. The NFP is of the opinion that the Minister of Social Development has failed in her duty to ensure that alternative measures be put in place to deal with the payment of grants as directed by the Concord in 2014. This blatant disregard for the judicial coupled with her incompetence.
Your time has now expired.
This qualifies her from holding
You may
such
now
a respectable and important position as Minister of Social Development.
Honorable Member,
And
your
urge
time
the
has
President
expired.
To replace her
I
as a
switch
member
off the
of
mic
agency.
now.
I thank you.
Kutheni kungazwakali ukuthi isikhathi sakho siphelile usiqhube ngenkani? Yeah. Honorable Holomis, this is house bag and that.
Honorable Deputy Speaker and honorable members, South Africans, and in particular the poor of the poorest, depend on social grants, must now place their hopes on the...
Order, honorable members. No, Kubeka, John.
Oh, ngathi sendiphazanyiswa nguye nje abenzanga nto abantu. South Africans, and in particular the poorest of the poor, depend on social grants, must now place their hopes on the Constitutional Court to defend their rights and restore their dignity. The Constitutional Court must force our embarrassed government to pay the beneficiaries and to do so on time.
Sorry, honorable members, that's out of order. You are ridiculously out of order. You can't be doing that. This is Parliament. How can you be behaving like that? No, I object.
Thank you.
Point of order, Chair.
Point
of order, Deputy Speaker.
I hope we can identify which members are doing this.
Deputy Speaker, it is Mahambelala who's making that noise.
Honorable
Mahambelala.
Honorable member, you can't just speak.
But you do not want to say them because they are
Honorable
ANC.
member, take your seat. Honorable member, take your seat.
You can clearly see them, but you don't want to act.
Honorable member, you're out of order.
I'm
You're not
not out of
supposed
order.
to speak before you are recognized. Honorable members, order.
Yeah. The honourable member is actually insulting member Mahambelala, say Mahambelala. Can you please withdraw from there?
Honorable members, I request that we not be distracted from what's happening. This is a serious debate. And I'm going to, I take serious exception to this language that is being used in the House, irresponsibly and in the manner in which members are doing so. Let's respect at least the substance of what we're talking about here. Honorable, please proceed.
Under normal circumstances, this matter should have been occasioned by an investigation of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry. However, knowing who has to effect such an inquiry, we may as well forget about it. Hence all hope is pinned on the Constitutional Court. The United Democratic Movement hopes that the Constitutional Court will issue a judgment that will restore the rule of law instead of a rule by law, wherein the powers of the accounting officers will be respected and the political interference by executive authorities will be reversed and made a thing of the past. The unscrupulous manipulation by politicians and the reported interference by advisors of the President and the Minister of Social Development, undermining the role of appointed official, is a clear demonstration of an irreparably corrupt government. The political directives that are interfering with the procurement processes have given rise to corrupt transactions. It is the same minister who, when her colleagues drove cars to a funeral of a late senior commander of Mkhonto Wesizwe in Willowvale, flew in a helicopter accompanied by the beneficiaries of the Cash Paymaster contract, CPS. Who hired this helicopter? I asked myself as I was present at the funeral and saw at the spectacular landing of this helicopter. Sithi apha abantu abasaphangeli, abantwana bethu esibafundisileyo bahlala ngasebuhlanti, bahlala emikhukhwini engasezindlini zabo, abaphangeli baxhomeke kule grant. Ngeli xesha le grant ibifamba iyenyuswa, les billions, 10 billion yonke ngonyaka ithathwa inikwa le nkampani ngu-CPS. Then nina nifuna uyistopha loo nto because inxibisa nini i-uniform, inithengela ihambisa nina ngehelicopter, ininika ii-parcels, ngapha nizowuxoka nithi opposition nayifuna inkampani abantu banikwe inkampani. Inina abaqhuba i-corruption lamasela.
Honorable Holomisa, your time has expired. You have made remarks on that podium that border on unparliamentary language, and we will rule on it. Honorable member, honorable member, no, honorable member, awusuke lapho kupodium. Siphelile isikhathi sakho, sizokulandela ukulandelisa umthetho lo uphulile, uphula deliberately. Honorable Miller, please proceed.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, it is quite clear in this debate this afternoon that the ANC is in trouble. And the members of the ANC on this side of the House who understands the balance of power know that. The ANC is seriously in trouble. If I look at the defense of the Honorable Minister this afternoon and the way that the ANC tries to disrupt the debate, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the actions of the ANC when the Nkandla saga started. It was the same kind of attempt to unequivocally defend the president, and we all know where that ended. You're going to be sorry for trying to defend today the undefensible. The Honourable Minister comes here today and she says there's no crisis at SASSA. Those were your words, Honourable Minister. But your legal spokesperson today says, Zukazi says, why SASSA and the Minister did not meet the deadline yesterday with the Constitutional Court. You were supposed to answer the Constitutional Court by 4 p.m. yesterday. You did not do that. And what is the reason given by your own spokesperson, your legal person, Zukazi? She says the following, and I quote, she says, sometimes when situations...
On a point of order, Chair.
Honorable
Chair, on a point of order.
Mulder, please take your seat.
I stand on Rule 84. I wonder whether the honourable member is aware that he points a finger like how Fairfoot used to do it. He keeps on pointing a finger and is threatening. Okay. And it reminds me of Fairfoot.
Okay. Take your seat, honourable member. Please proceed, honourable member.
I want to tell that honourable member, I can keep my fingers back, but remember this, the whole of South Africa are pointing their fingers at the ANC at the moment because you are useless. Now, Honourable Minister, you know, your own spokesperson said today, sometimes when situations are out of control, they are delayed. The situation in your department is out of control. Aren't you aware of that? But the Minister comes here and tells us it will be paid on the 1st of April and we don't have to worry. That's not the point. You are missing the whole point. Now, Honourable Minister, you should have a look at what the Constitution says, and your colleagues should do the same. Section 92(2) of the Constitution says, what are the obligations of ministers? Ministers are supposed to act in terms of the Constitution and to fulfill the obligations. But the point is, and you don't understand, I'll try to assist you as well. The point is, it seems that we have ministers here.
On a point of order, Chair.
What are you raising on, Honourable Member?
The Honourable Member is saying I'm useless, and that is offensive.
No, Honourable Member, he didn't say that. I heard him.
Yes, he said it.
Take your seat. No, I heard him. Order. Proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Constitution expects you to act in a certain manner, but it seems that we have members of the executive here who think that they are only ceremonial ministers. There are no such thing as a ceremonial minister. Ministers to be picked up at the airport, to be driven in beautiful vehicles, etc. You are the political head of the department. You are supposed to take responsibility for your department, and you have failed. The fact is, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Minister, as she is sitting there, is in contempt of the Constitutional Court, and she should be charged with contempt of court. That's the reality. You are in contempt of court. 3 years ago, you were told that the contract is invalid. You were told to do something about that. You did nothing. Why did you do nothing? Because you were so interested in the internal politics of the ANC to become the president of the Women's League. You failed South Africa, and the only thing that the ANC can and should do is they should fire you.
Honourable Madisha.
Honorable members, from the other side of the world in Jakarta, President Zuma said, I quote, that there was no crisis and that there would only be a crisis if on April's Fool's Day, grants are not paid, unquote. This is the narrative that is being peddled by the president and, of course, the minister and the ANC. The central issue in this catastrophe is, however, not whether social grants will be paid or not. COPE is sure that the Constitutional Court will save South Africans from the calamity that we are faced with. We have here a government which does not respect the law and or the courts. In 2014, Concord found that the CPS contract was invalid due to problems during the tender process and ordered the department to run another tender process. The department refused. Hence, CPS, a contract with government is still continuing. And even worse, CPS is now receiving an increase per beneficiary per month. Hence, CPS is going to receive 3.6 billion rand, whilst not saving 11 million people 487,417 people all in all. The nexus of the calamity is how this government has undermined the authority of the Constitutional Court and rubbished the very foundation upon which our nation is built, namely our Constitution and its supremacy. The answer as to why we face this manufactured calamity lies in why government, particularly the minister and the president, personally and personal legal person called Mr. Halley have done all that they are doing to avoid oversight of this matter by the Constitutional Court. South Africans must rise, ask questions, and say why do these people continue to tell lies? Why do they go on, deceive the people, and so on and so forth? ANC must go down. This is the time.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ACDP is horrified that SASSA has had the audacity through the Minister to ask that the committee should not push it to reveal its contingency plans in public, as this might jeopardize the work done. And the ACDP is calling on the President of South Africa to address the nation in this hour of crisis and spell out what has been done and what will be done to meet the payment deadline and ensure there are no hitches. The situation placing the South African Social Security Agency at risk of not being able to pay the nation's social grants and pensions at the end of March has created general panic among the thousands of pensioners and grant recipients who fear they will not, that they will have nothing to live on come the end of the month. The ACDP notes that before President Zuma left for Indonesia, he said he had spoken to Ministers Gordon and Dlamini and called on them to work together to find a solution to ensure the monies get paid. He also assured those entitled to grants that they will receive their money, urging the country to be calm on the matter. Now, this situation has now opened the President to further speculation that Minister Pravin Gordhan is being set up to take the blame. The ACDP recognizes that while the 17 million people who are dependent on social grants and most parties in this House do not share the President's confidence, we cannot accept defeat and we must all work together to avert this looming crisis. The operative word being, Honourable Minister, together. The ACDP finds it absurd that while government is trying to curb abuses of the social grant system and the original granting of the tender for payouts of the nation's social grants and pensions with Cash Master Service Private Limited was itself found to be illegitimate by the Constitutional Court. As the court suspended the declaration of invalidity until SASSA issued the awarded a fresh tender, or until March 31st, 2017, whichever event occurred first, we are now down to the wire. In deciding SASSA could do the job, the 3-year process has proved that government has bitten off more than it can chew, as SASSA is nowhere near ready to assume the critical function. SASSA, in deciding that retaining the services of CPS, although it would be the extension of an illegal contract, would be the best way to go, they approached the Constitutional Court to regularize their intended action. Suggestions that the department was pressured politically to maintain the contract with CPS have been denied, but the situation is curious to say the least. Now, I seldom agree with the DA, but the question as to why Minister Dlamini is so hell-bent on ensuring the CPS continue disturbing social grants leaves no option but to investigate the situation fully. Thank you.
Honourable Gallo.
Deputy Speaker, the Bantustans of Putatswana, Transkei, Venda, and Siskai ran a successful social welfare distribution program. It is even regrettable that we have to benchmark ourselves against these failed states to drive a point home. To their credit, they duly respected the dignity of the elderly, the pensioners, the poor. The current SASSA debacle, presided over by the Minister of Social Development, is way out of our constitutional settlement league. Justice Cameron, writing a majority judgment in the CPS case 3 years ago, anchored the importance
of social welfare to the poor in the following terms. As I open and close quote, about 15 million people depend on the payment of the social grants. They are vulnerable people living at the margins of affluence in our society. Deputy Speaker, the Minister of Social Development was warned 3 years ago by the Constitutional Court that the CPS contract with the SASSA was invalid. The order of invalidity was suspended to allow the affected parties to run a new tender process. The AIC is disappointed that the Minister has failed in her executive function to oversee that SASSA complies with the Constitution or Constitutional Court order. The Minister's disregard for the law and of the highest order, that is the Constitutional Court in this land, exemplifies her alleged conflict of interest in this contract. Honorable Deputy Speaker, CPS has no monopoly over the distribution of social grants in South Africa. Experts in the social welfare space are all agreeable that the Post Bank or even the Post Office have the requisite capacity as the CPS does. To administer social welfare payments, Deputy Speaker, the SASSA debacle is a human rights travesty. It places the National Treasury and the poor at loggerheads. It is the National Treasury that has to approve any deviation of the normal procurement procedure as contemplated in Section 217 of the Constitution. Minister Dlamine's intention is to pit the National Treasury against the poor South Africans. This is part of the greater syndicate to fire the Minister of Finance and loot state resources. The Minister and her spokesperson have little regard for the poor.
Your
The
time has
AIC
expired,
is convinced that this
Honourable Member,
is a warning sign.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Honourable Juste.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, honourable members, fellow South Africans. Hierdie hele SASSA debakel wys vir ons dat die behoeftes van mense wat sosiale toelaas ontvang, die oppergesag van die reg en verantwoordbaarheid geensins vir hierdie minister belangrik is nie. She avoids answering questions, she interferes in the administration of her department, and she has gone out of her way to make sure that grants will again be distributed by CPS. Now, it is important to remember that it is because of CPS and its link to Net 1 subsidiary companies that we have seen the emergence of so-called illegal deductions. These deductions cannot be afforded by grant beneficiaries, they cannot be recovered, and they cause untold hardship in grant beneficiaries' lives. But the minister doesn't care. She doesn't care because her primary priority is not with the people on the ground. And because of that, she has become completely out of touch.
Point of order, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, what are you rising on? Take your seat, Honourable Juste.
In terms of Rule 66B, can an honourable member take a question? A very short question.
Honourable Juste. She says no.
Understand this is a maiden speech.
She says no. Proceed,
It's a
Honourable
maiden
Juste.
speech. I want.
Just how out of touch she is with the conditions on the ground was baie goed geïllustreer verlede jaar. Verlede jaar het ek die minister gevra of die finansiële waarde van sosiale toelaas genoeg is om die mans en vrouens en kinders wat daarvan afhanklik is te onderhou. Sy het toe die vermetelheid gehad om te sê R753 is genoeg om kos en ander noodsaaklikhede te koop. Dit was 'n klap in die gesig van alle Suid-Afrikaners en dit wys vir ons hoe uitvoering die minister is met dit wat werklik op die grond aangaan. Honourable Deputy Speaker, The crisis is not only about whether grants will be paid on the 1st of April and who is going to be paying these grants. It is also about the value of these grants. 70% of these grants are below the food poverty line. It costs approximately 640 rand to feed a small child a basic nutritious meal and 680 to feed a teenager. Yet the child grant is only 380 rand. So it should come as no surprise that 1 in 4 children in South Africa don't eat properly. 1 in 4 children can't reach their full potential due to malnutrition and stunting. Honourable Deputy Chairperson, while this Minister runs around abrogating her responsibilities towards Parliament and secures contracts, we have a 25% stunting rate in South Africa. Now that is a humanitarian crisis. It is an economic disaster, and it is a national embarrassment 23 years after democracy. It is for the sake of these children that the grant should be paid on the 1st of April. But not only that, their value should be increased so that mothers can at least feed their children properly. Dit is net die DA wat hierdie realiteit verstaan. Dit is net die DA wat die minister verantwoordbaar wil hou en dit is net die DA wat beklei vir beter sosiale toelaas. As die president haar nie verantwoordelik wil hou nie, moet sy die eerbare ding doen en afstaan van haar posisie.
Sekela somlomo, indlu yowiso umthetho namalungu, abantu bakuthi ababukele ngomdla ukwazi into yokuba ikamva labo lithini na, ikumkani nenkosi zelizwe lakokwethu, inzala yezimbamgodi, abantu abahluphekileyo, ndiyababulisa ngale njikalanga. Ndiyayibulela indlu ukuba ilivume elithuba ukuba sizityanda igila ngalomba wokuba baya kubhatalwa na abantu bakuthi. Ndivile ke kusithiwa akusaxoxwa leyo. Mna bendize ndizoxoxa leyo kule ndlu. Kuba engakwazanga ukuba kuthiwe abazukwamkela bayatshintsha bathi ingobuqhophololo norhwaphilizo. Mawethu balumkeleni olwimi mbini. Sizake sigxile ke kule besize ngayo. Ndiyasiva isikhalo selungu elisuka apha umama uYoste ekhala ngabantwana. Lungu elihloniphekileyo mandikunike imbilini yam ndithi kuwe. Bekulapha ko-1947 ukubheka phambili apho abantwana boMzantsi Afrika babantu abamnyama bebenganikwa nto. Kulapha ko-1980 apho khona ipension yabantu abamnyama yehliswa ukusuka ku-25% ukusuka ku-13%. Isikhalo namhlanje sesokuba kuza kubakho ubuqhophololo akukathi uba sebudandalazile. Sincediseni ke mawethu, yiyani ezinkantolo niye nakwiikomiti nakwezinye izakhiwo ezilungele ukuphanda. Thina apha umsebenzi wethu asilophando. Asinqweneli ke ukukhutshwa emxholweni ngabantu abakhathazeke kuba kuza kuhlawulwa emva kokuba bebethe abantu abazukuhlawula. Bantu bakoNombandlana, bantu bakuthula mahashe, bantu baseXholobeni, ngemini yokwamkela kwenu vukani ekuseni njengesiqhelo nihambe niyokwamkela. Mandidlule apho ndithi ngobani bona aba thethwa.
Awuthatha isihlalo sakusisi. Yes, Honourable Member, what are you raising on?
Honourable Speaker, umama uXhapha ndicinga uba umkile emxholweni ngoka-Rule 68. Asithethi le nto ayithethayo thina ngoku. Siyavumelana imali izawubhatalwa.
Honourable Member, no, you can't debate from there. No, that's not a point of order.
Umama uXhapha waba inkokheli akwazi ulandela. andikwazi kulandela into efunwa nguwe ndilandela le kufuneka ithethwe ngexesha elithethwe ngalo sizwe sakokwethu balumkelani omafika izolo ngoba kaloku kukwa izolo oku apho abantu kuthethwa ngabo namhlanje abantu balabileyo namhlanje
Please take your seat. Let's listen. Yes, honorable member.
Yeah. Chair, could you please help us with the hooligans up there because we can't hear now.
Okay. Honorable members, please, guests in the gallery, this is the third time that we request you to not participate. Please don't. It disrupts the proceedings of the House. We welcome your presence, but not your participation. Thank you. Honorable Kapa, please proceed.
Deputy Speaker, why don't you call the bouncers for these ANC people here? Why?
Honorable Sope, you are a member of parliament. You must respect members in the gallery, whether they are ANC or any political party. Their political affiliation is irrelevant. Honorable member. Proceed, honorable member.
Sekuliliselwa nje ngokuba abantu abazuhlawulwa ngo-1994 umthetho owangeniswayo wokuba kubekho isebe elizimeleyo ekuthiwa lele social welfare lenza into yokokuba makulinganiswe ukwamkela ndingake ndinibalisele mna mntu wasezilalini ncakasana endazalelwe emva kocango kungekho nesi kungekho gqirha umuntu wase-Eastern Cape kuloma homeland ebesamkela i-44 rand kwinyanga ezintathu kuthiwa igama layo yikota umuntu ose-Western Cape entshona koloni ebesamkela i-120 rand ngenyanga inyanga nenyanga kodwa bona bamhlophe bebethe vetshe imali inkulu yaqhubeka ukunyuka yaqhubeka ukwehla eyesizwe esimnyama namhlanje sizokhalela ukuba imali enikwa abantu incinane kuyizoloku apho bebengayinikwanga kwalapha phakathi kwethu kukho oBetty Dlaba ebebengafuni ukuba le mali mayibe khona kuthiwa kudevelopa i-welfare state manene nani manenekazi malungu ahloniphekileyo ndiyazithoba phambi kwenu ndithi kungenxa yemithetho enaniyenzile namhlanje sihlupheka nje kuba kwathiwa ngumhlekazi uMulda makuqiniseke into yoba kukhona i-migration labour system eshiya umfazi ngapha ishiya umntwana ngapha ithotha indoda isemgodini eyo yantlukwano yenza uba abantu abamnyama abanamphakathi baba bafundanga namhlanje bazizicaka ezinto okuthiwa ngamaphandle homeland were breeding places for a cheap labor for you today to sit here and point fingers and say the ANC, which if Tina we were able to say this, we would be arrested, honorable member. To complain about a bad road was a jail. 3 months I've been there, honorable member. I do want us to be honest and say, how does South Africans, bantu base South Africa, xa sekuthiwa abantu aba ndimamele kakuhle abantu aba bebesamkela bebelinani elincinane kakhulu bekungekho norms and standards zoba ubani wamkela malini njengoba sendicacisile xa kuthiwa lento iyacentralizwa isiwa national xa kuthiwa abantu mabalingane zavakala izikhalo malungu ahloniphekileyo besitya isonka phezu kwetafile nabe befumana ingququ ngaphantsi abamnyama ngebala kwabonakala into yokokuba xa kulinganwa kubi ngoba aba bebencela umbele omkhulu bayahlupheka namhlanje kuyalingana mandidlule ndize kule nto ithi ikwayile parliamente ye-ANC ezene-ANC basingene nathi simnyama niyayazi bebingena bekungena abantu abamnyama bebezoyingcolisa yenza into yokokuba umgcini mafa akhupha amabhiliyoni aliqela ukwenzela uba kubekho lo makulingana. Lo makulingwane esithetha ngayo namhlanje eyona nto ndingayo sizwe sakokwethu ethula mahashe kunombanjana nandawoni na noba kusesitax rate niza kwamkela kutsho laa mlomo wawuthe manamkele ningawuphulaphuli omnye umlomo masingabuyi siziswe apha ukuzozama ukuthetha into ebesingathethi yona eyona nto siyitshoyo yethi siza kulwa not uba abantu badle ii-handouts sigaqele kule nto ngubani onepokiti elikhulu likwazi uba linikwe abantu bonke kungabikho mntu kumane kusithiwa makamkele inkamnkam. Xa ndisondele ekugqibeleni ndifuna ukuthi kubonakala ukungalingani okukhulu phakathi kwabantu okwenziwe ngabomu. Uba uzawusebenzisa iposi ayikho kunombanjana senditshilo. Uba uzawusebenzisa ibhanki ayikho ngapha entsela amanzi noba yeyiphi intlobo yebhanki ifuna ke loo nto abantu abavanayo abafuna kulinganwe abayikhumbulayo izolo labo nezabo imistake bangathi xa kuvela imistake ezenziwa kuzama ukulungisa bafune into yokuba bathi ukuba kukho ubuqhophololo khona iinkundla zomthetho bakhona abaphandi yani kubo engeke ndivume sihlalo ngumcimbi we-Black Sash ethi makususwe amagunya eParliament ayonikwa ujustice kuthiwe makube nguye ozowubhebhisitha siyephi thina malungu eParliament ngeportfolio committee umuntu ofuna uba lilungu leportfolio committee mabelungu apha ayekuba kwenye indawo afuna uzokwenza lo msebenzi siyayivuma into yoba uba kukho umuntu owenze undonakele ongayenzanga bekumele uyenzile makasiwe apho kuzawuthe kungathethe abantu abangayaziyo ondive le debate iza kakuhle intle idandalazisa ukuba kuhleliwe nje kunqulukhwa ukuba ingathi xa kutshoni xa niye nabhomboloza kweliqonga kuzawuthiwa nini enize nale mali anizanga nayo ubona nje ukusukela ngo-2015 2016 sithetha ngaphaya kwe-120 billion enikwa abantu abangathathi intweni ukwenzela into yoba bafane nani isibongo bantu abemzini nibe nje nangenye imini ndiyabulela sihlalo ngexesha lakho.
Honorable Kowama.
Order. Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members, do not take the previous speaker serious. She is guilty as the minister. She is one of those honorable
Point of
members.
order.
What are you raising, honorable member?
Rule number 62B. Ni lava ku kamba ka tatani va lava nga tshama kona ni ku va nga teka xivutiso na.
Honorable member, will you take a question?
No.
The answer is no. Proceed, honorable member.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. This honorable member who just finished talking, she has been serving as a security guard to protect the honorable minister. Honorable members, let me explain why.
On a point of order.
Yes, honorable member.
The
Yes,
member
honorable
has just, I'm rising on Rule 84. The member has just imputed the dignity of the honorable member Kappa that she's a security guard of the minister. She's an honorable member of Parliament. Can you rule on that, please? Thank you.
Honorable Plewama.
Honorable Deputy, I said she's acting like a security guard. Honorable members, Let me explain why the minister must be fired. Dereliction of duty and negligence, trust deficits and deficiency of leadership. To stop this nightmare that is engulfing our nation, if the ANC does not want to fire this minister, let me fire her right now. Honorable Minister, you are fired into our conscience and hearts of our people. Honorable members, Minister Dlamini is the worst minister ever produced by the ruling ANC. This is a severe case of self-delusion when a minister decides to endanger the health and life of the vulnerable people in our society, deliberately not abide to the constitutional court directives, simply provide arguments only designed to cater to one sense of the absurd.
On a point of order, Chair.
Yes, honourable member, what are you raising on?
I just want to check whether is it parliamentary for a member of parliament to hallucinate.
Honourable Blowama, please proceed.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the question we need to ask ourselves is, who is benefiting from this dangerous self-made crisis? Why the minister is not even reprimanded by the president? Honorable Deputy Speaker, the pattern of Nkanda and CAPS are the same. The same criminals are involved. I truly smell encroaching greedy fingers of the president in this deed. This minister is an ideological clone of the president.
Honourable member, the rules apply to the House. You can't say that of the president. You know how you must do it. You know how you must do it. No, honourable members, you can't say the language he used to describe the president. Yes. So you withdraw that, honourable member?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, can you be specific?
Honourable member, you withdraw your reference to the president the way you addressed him. You do that. You said it, you know what you said it, you are reading it there, you just withdraw what you said.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, can you check Hansard?
I have heard you. I check Hansard for reasons that I give. I have heard you. You withdraw that, honourable member.
Honourable Deputy Speaker,
you have a choice to listen to Honourable Mbata or to the presiding officer.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, let me repeat what I said. I said I truly smell an encroaching greedy fingers of the Honourable President in this
Honourable member, withdraw that reference.
Point of order, Speaker.
Rule 82 and Rule 84 is
But
very
that's
explicit.
simple English.
Honourable Mbata.
Deputy Speaker.
Honourable member. Will you withdraw? You just make a choice. You just make a choice, honourable member.
Point of order, Speaker.
Honourable member, I'm addressing Honourable Plowama here. I'm expecting him to respond to me so that he proceeds. You've got 45 seconds, honourable member.
Honourable Deputy, let me withdraw. This department must be saved from her. No wonder why the ANC Women's League is such bad news. Honourable Deputy Speaker, when you listen to the minister's bogus arguments, you then realize that we are dealing with blatant fraud, extortionists, those who use public office for self-serving, self-enrichment. This is a better...
Order. On a point of order, Chair.
Order. What's your... Yes, honourable member, what are you raising on?
Order. I'm rising on Rule 84.
Yes.
The member has just called the minister an extortionist. I think it is unparliamentary. It must be withdrawn. Please.
Honourable member, you know that.
Honourable, I didn't say she's an extortionist. It's an argument, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
What's that?
It's an argument. I'm putting forward an argument. I didn't call her an extortionist. Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Honourable member, I'll come back to you. It will come back to you. It's all right.
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Deputy Speaker, this is a betrayal.
Yes, Honorable, please take your seat. Yes, Honorable Member, what are you raising on?
I'm raising on Rule 68, relevance or repetition. The presiding officer may order a member addressing the House to stop speaking if that member, despite warnings from the chair, persists in irrelevant or repetitive arguments.
Thank you for reminding us, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, proceed.
Deputy Speaker, can you remind the honorable member that we are here because of corruption? That is why we can't stop talking. Honorable Deputy
Honorable
Speaker,
Members, order.
this is a betrayal. The arrogant elite will not stop until the country is bankrupt. The ANC is finished. We must stop it before our country is finished too. The ruling ANC and the Minister Matabele Dlamini is playing games with the lives of our
Honorable
people.
Member, your term has expired.
Thank you.
Honorable Godi.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, comrades and honorable members, 2 points I want to make. Firstly, grants must be paid on the 1st of April. Grants will be paid on the 1st of April. This is basic government responsibility. Doing it is not an achievement to be celebrated. Why do we even have to assure people about something so basic? It can only be a pointer to governance problems. The second point is, so the issue is not about payment more than it is about whether such payments will be done legally or not. Money to pay grants is there. What is missing is a contract with a service provider. Why do we not have a contract 2 weeks before the expiry of a 5-year contract is a product of a well-orchestrated, cynical plot to hold the country beholden to the infamous and controversial CPS company. For this, SASSA, the Department of Social Development, and the Minister must be held solely responsible. All the long and winding explanations are half-cooked truths. This is a well-orchestrated ruse. It is a ruse. It boggles the mind why there is this tenacious clinging to CPS, which is arrogant, disrespects government, and robs grants recipients. The solution is there. It has always been there, and that is the post office. The ministerial task team met with the post office no less than 4 times, discussing how post office can disperse grants. The minister must confirm or deny that the post office was the preferred choice of the ministerial task team. If it was so, why are we where we are now? Let's give this thing to the post office. It is a public institution. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Deputy Speaker. From very large Inyana skeletons to the artful dodger, Social Development Minister Matabele Dlamini has become a master of dodging accountability. Her absolute disdain and disregard for parliamentary procedures and regulations and the PFMA beggar belief. The lengths she has gone to ensure that CPS gets a new contract to issue grants again cannot be made up. In July 2016, when it was fast becoming apparent that SASSA were facing challenges with regards to the takeover of grants
Point of
in
order,
April,
Chair. In terms of Rule 65, a member is conversing aloud. Please, let her reduce her volume.
Out of order. Proceed, Honorable
Deputy
Member.
Speaker.
Please proceed.
Deputy Speaker. Sorry, I know you find that amusing, but again I raised the
Who
point.
finds it amusing? Where do you get that from?
You're
You are out of, Honorable Member, you are out of order. You
I'm not
mustn't
out of
make
order.
accusations that are unfounded.
I'm
in the
happy
first
to look
place.
at the footage and show you laughing. You were laughing.
Honorable Member,
You were laughing.
Honorable Member, I've just ruled that member out of order, and I'm asking the member to
But
proceed.
you see, this is why ANC members do it repeatedly, because you do it with a smile. When it's members of the opposition, it's a serious thing. They get hauled out by white shirts.
No,
when an ANC
honourable
member breaks
member,
the rules, it's
point of
amusing.
order. Honourable member, no,
Deputy
you are out
Speaker,
of order.
I'm not out of order.
No,
It's
you
the truth.
are. You are, honourable member. Let's allow the member to proceed. What are you raising on, honourable member?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. I would love you to go back and also to answer. I think that for record, the honorable member's conduct is unacceptable in terms of the principle on which I'm rising. He cannot exchange with the presiding officer, and therefore he spoke several times without having been pointed at. Mr. Steenhuisen must desist from doing that conduct. It's unacceptable, especially for him as a leader of, as a chief whip of the opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do that. Honourable member, proceed.
In July 2016, when it was fast becoming apparent that SASSA were facing challenges with regards to the takeover of grants in April 2017, the DA began submitting written questions to the Minister, 15 in total. The Minister responded to 2. We then submitted 13 questions again in January. She has answered none. The DA asked the Minister whether she submitted the proposed payment model for the takeover of grants by SASSA to the National Treasury for analysis. No reply. In July 2016 and again in January 17, the DA asked the Minister whether SASSA intends to extend its contract for the distribution of grants to CPS Net 1 before the end of 31st of March. No reply. The DA asked the Minister for details of the various workstream categories set up by her to action the transition of the distribution of social grants from Net 1 to SASSA. No reply. The DA questioned the tender processes used for the contracts of the leaders and work streams. No reply. The Minister failed to answer 93% of parliamentary questions submitted by the DA relating directly to SASSA and the social grant crisis since July 2016. This is a clear indication of the Minister's reign of impunity and her continual dodging of any opportunity to account for her department's failure to ensure that 17 million South Africans receive their grants when the invalid CPS contract ends at the end of this month. Parliamentary questions are a vital component of accountability in Parliament and provides an opportunity to ensure that the executive conduct themselves in a transparent manner. When the DA requested the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee to please summons the Minister to give account to the portfolio, we were advised by the chair that it may not summons the Minister. She gets invited, and if she decides to come, it's up to her. When the Minister did grace the portfolio with her presence, it was to continue her lack of transparency. She was deliberately vague in her responses, and when the DA pushed for concrete answers, they were shut down by the chair of the committee. Even the Speaker, Baleka Mbeki, went to great lengths to protect the Minister in oral questions. So the DA requested Scopa to ask for the Minister to appear. Only then did her skeleton start to fall out of the cupboard. And it became apparent that her manipulation of this emergency situation in favor of CPS and the lack of any contracts with them had put the lives of 17 million South Africans at risk. The DA is of the belief that Minister Dlamini is no longer fit to hold office and have called for President Zuma to fire her. His silence on this matter is deafening and serves to confirm that the ANC in fact rewards failure. We have even written to the Public Protector asking for her to conduct an urgent inquiry into the alleged breach of the Executive Ethics Code after in her budget speech the Minister stated SASSA would take over the payment process of social grants. The DA will continue to pursue all avenues to make sure the Minister cannot dodge accountability any further. Now, it is apparent today that the opposition are all in agreement that Minister Dlamini should be fired, then that she must go. Mama Kapa, Honourable Kapa, our job is oversight, and you have continually stifled our attempts to fill our mandate in regards to the SASSA issue.
Order, Speaker. Order, Deputy Speaker. Oh, take your seat, honourable member. What are you raising, honourable member?
Honourable Speaker, I request the honourable member there, she should speak via you. She not just speak directly to Honourable Kappa as she has just done.
Okay, proceed, honourable member. Yeah.
Our job is to oversight, and you have continually stifled our attempts to fulfill our mandates with regards to this issue. Don't tell us how to do your job. Don't tell us how to do our job when you don't know how to do yours. You cannot protect the minister. If you will say you are a leader, behave like one. Minister Dlamini, we are not stupid. Wim Trengrove said that you were out of line, that you had to revert back to the court, and that the deviations you requested were unlawful. We have seen his opinion, and you ignored his opinion. You obviously did not listen to Minister Gordon or Scoper today either. Quite frankly, all you have done is rushed into a situation, and we must ask why.
Honourable Member, your time has expired. Honourable Tsoleni.
Sekela Somlom, abantu bomzantsi Afrika eyona nto abafuna ukuyiva namhlanje kukuba bazayifumana na indodla yabo. Singumbutho kaKhongolose sima siqinisekile ukuba imali elulungelo lenu ngokomgaqo siseko welizwe niza kuyifumana ngaphandle kwamathandabuzo. Umphathiswa wezimali namhlanje naye ukuqinisekisile oku. Honourable Speaker, let me address Honourable Van der Merwe as a person who has sponsored the motion. She has raised...
Through the chair.
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
She has raised a number of issues about the ANC. And those issues that she has raised, they ranges from the point that the ANC is not a caring organization. Let me educate you about the ANC. It is the ANC that has put poverty eradication as the top priority in their manifesto. South Africa is one of the first countries in the world where policy makers considered social comprehensive security as an alternative response to the problem of mass structural unemployment. Social security is one of government's most significant instruments of reducing poverty and inequality. Much has been done to expand social security coverage in the last 2 decades. Notable progress has been made with expansion of social assistance to over 17 million South Africans. More than 11 of those 17 millions are children who are getting child support grant, while about 3 million are the elderly. Various studies showed the significant progress impact on the expanded system for household and individual in the impoverished sector of the population. If cash transfers were to be removed, poverty will rise from 54% to 60%. Gains from the extensive reach of social grants, especially the child support grant, are well documented. These gains include, at an aggregate level, reduced poverty, inequality, and the reduction of hunger. In addition to the impressive coverage of our country's social assistance system, the impact of social grants on household formation implies that its impact extends further than simple to those who receive grants, but to those who are beneficiaries of those who receive grants. The phenomenon of people moving into households in which grants are received has, for example, resulted in the increased effectiveness of grants in alleviating poverty for a greater network of people. Furthermore, the formation of households around social grant income has kept old-age people in the community, empowered them, and contribute to the reduction in their dependence on their children. We must further note that typical grant recipients are women, especially African women, who are living in rural areas where poverty is concentrated. When the ANC-led government embarked on this ambitious policy expansion of expanding social grants, many in the opposition criticized the ANC, claiming that we will create a welfare state and cripple the economy. Today, they are acknowledging the success of the system. By so doing, they must also acknowledge the organization that has brought its transformation. In in 2002, DA initial response to government announcement of investigating the feasibility of universalization of grants was a total rejection. But we are surprised today. They parade as champions of the system. This is the worst kind of opportunism on the side of the DA. You cannot make the plight of our people your political football. You cannot make the plight of our people your political football.
Point of order.
ANC is committed to fulfill the terms of the contract that we signed with our people in 1994, and that contract is the better life
Please
for
take
all.
your seat. Yes, Honorable Member, what are you rising on?
Can the honorable member take a question?
Honorable Toledi?
I don't have time for a question.
She knows what
The
I was going
basic
to ask.
character of the ANC as the movement of the people is revolutionary multi-class that operate within the capitalist-orientated society where there is uncooperative attitude towards authority. Therefore, there is a greater possibility and reality that capitalism breeds corruption and erode principle and moral integrity. As the movement, we were alive to this reality. Hence, part of our central priority in our manifesto is the fight against corruption because it is wasteful and it promotes negligence and illicit or ferocious accumulation by the few, which undermines the whole developmental and transformation agenda in our society. As conscious members of this movement, we believe that the very poor and exploited class cannot suffer from reckless use of resources by leadership and its connivance. What is important to understand is our priority under the National Democratic Revolution is to protect the poor. Unemployed masses that have been disadvantaged by colonialism of special type to access basic services, services which will bring back their dignity, a sense of security, and a sense of security. Our government, under the rule of the ANC, has through thick and thin worked hard in making sure that our people in general, and Africans in particular, the poor masses have got access to services, ranging from housing, water, sanitation, infrastructure, and social grants. It has always been forthcoming that such would not be assessed without difficulties and challenges, especially under the current immense opposition forces who are working against our hard-earned achievement. The current SASSA debacle is but one such example, where opposition parties and media are putting a lot of uncertainties in the minds of the million of our poor masses that grants are not going to be paid, despite government assuring all of us that such would not happen. It is therefore our responsibility to ensure that the poor masses at all times are protected and accordingly benefit from these services, for their survival depends solely on them. We therefore call on state institutions that deals with cases of or alleged corruption and the organization to be firm on corruption, regardless of social status in society. Deputy Speaker, as I move towards concluding, let me reiterate the call made by our President and our Deputy President to the nation that grants will be paid to the recipients on the 1st of April. Let me assure the grannies from Sipaku, Mokau, Lukau, and Tafelkop in Limpopo. Mandikumbuze, dibakalele abantu basevoizana, kwaThuntubela, Estate Eastern Cape. Irikibulele batho ba Central Western Jabavu, Meadowlands, Eldozi Soweto. Le batho ba Morietsane, batho ba Kopela, batho ba Jopetina, Northwest. Hore. Hasenete, se buang, ke opposition habari. Mo presidente wa rona Ntate Zuma o tlo nka di grante tseo tse le ba dinewa ke Ntate Mandela. Ha se nnete ke leshano le tswileng matsogo. social grants will be paid by any means come the 1st April. Comprehensive social security system is the brainchild of the ANC government. You can read it from all our documents, from the RDP document and the NDP, the current one document. Speaker, the honorable members, let me remind them that when they come here and speak about the contract of CPS, they keep on the contract that is officially ending at the end of this month. But they fail to inform the nation that the department is negotiating on a new contract. Once again, this has been confirmed this morning by the Minister of Finance that the department is negotiating on a new contract, not the one that they are referring to that was illegally and unlawful. Secondly, Honorable Van der Merwe and Honorable Masang, you cannot blame the ANC and blame the Speaker on this issue. Let me remind you that this parliament is a multi-party parliament that has got all parties in portfolio committee. So all of us, it is our responsibility to hold the department accountable. I thank you.
Honorable Van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I would like to thank all those who participated in the debate, especially the members of the opposition party. I want to say thank you to the Honourable Kluama for actually firing the Minister on our behalf. That was good work. To the Honourable Holomisa, I want to say thank you very much for pointing out the link of corruption between the Minister, CPS and the fake BE partners. But Minister Dlamini, you simply just don't get it. No one from this side of the House is manufacturing a crisis. You are the crisis and you created this crisis. The only thing we need to still figure out is to what end you manufactured this crisis and whose interests are you serving. And quite frankly, Minister, had you done your job, we as taxpayers won't be responsible for paying an unlawful contract when that money could have gone to the post office and to increasing social grants. That's what the IFP wants, increasing social grants, and the money should have gone to the post office. Honourable Tulele, you really don't have to teach me anything. If your economic policies were working, we didn't need 17 million people to rely on a social grant alone. That's a fact. Also, we are not manufacturing this crisis. You manufactured this crisis alone. Yeah. And also this thing of blaming opposition parties in the media for your woes, it's really getting old. Think of something new. Also, don't tell us because President Zuma said grants will be paid that we must simply believe that. We don't believe anything your president says. But another thing, today's debate is once again proof that the ANC cannot be saved from itself. The issue is not whether grants will be paid or not on the 1st of April. You have to do that, otherwise this country will burn. But this is about you, a rogue government that's trampling on our constitution, that's ignoring the Constitutional Court. You've shown little respect for the rule of law. You've got a minister that's clearly captured and a state captured under the Zuma administration. That is the bigger issue here, and that is what matters. That goes to the heart of our democracy. So once it's all said and done, there is no excuse for showing such disdain for the most vulnerable in our society. There is no excuse for ignoring the Constitutional Court. There is no excuse for bypassing the post office, giving billions to a bunch of crooks who faked their BEE credentials and have been stealing from the most vulnerable in our society. So in conclusion, let me state again, the IFP will call on this House...
Point of order.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Is it parliamentary, Honourable Deputy Speaker, for a member to call members of parliament bunch of crooks?
No,
I think
she
you
didn't say
should rule
that.
on that.
She didn't say that, Honourable Member. Please proceed.
Well, if the shoe fits,
Order,
but I wasn't talking
order.
about you. In fact, I was talking about CPS, but if the shoe fits. But anyway, Anyway, in conclusion, let me state again, the IFP will move for this House to establish a parliamentary committee so that we can look into the crisis at SASSA, the dodgy tender, and we also want the Public Protector to investigate this matter. Finally, Honourable Minister, you have broken your oath of office. You're in contempt of court. You've trampled on our Constitution. You've shown disdain for those most vulnerable in our society. It's time to go. Thank you.
Honourable members, that concludes the debate on this subject. We now come to motions without notice. Does any member of the ANC wish to give a motion without notice? Yes, Honourable Member.
All right, it's 17:19, and that was a live debate of the SASSA grants debacle straight from the National Assembly. The opposition MPs were incensed at the fact that the Minister, Bathabile Dlamini, had totally shunned her duties while campaigning for a presidential seat, that she had a full 3 years to sort out the CPA.
Zamo head to Mandela Park, Hout Bay, leaving at least 15,000 residents displayed. 2. Further notes that the fire ripped through the dense informal settlement, leaving thousands of shacks burned to the ground and many families homeless. 3. Believes that the fire engines were dispatched to the scene, but soon ran out of water and battled for hours to put out the fire. 4. Understands that community halls in the Hout Bay area.
Honourable members, please do whatever you're doing quietly. We want to hear what's happening here. Honourable members, please, your conversations are too high.
Yeah. Are filled with residents who were affected by the blaze. 5. Commends the role played by the NGOs, including Gift of the Givers, in assisting the fire victims. And 6. Conveys condolences to the families of the deceased and sympathizes with all the affected residents. So I move for the ANC. Thank you.
The DA.
Deputy Speaker, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes, notes the...
Deputy Speaker. Wait. Sorry. Just 1 second.
Sorry.
Wait.
Can I continue?
No. One moment. Honourable members,
He didn't put the motion to the House.
are there any objections to the motion? No objections, agreed to. Next.
Deputy Speaker, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House, 1, notes the establishment of the Metropolitan Police Force in Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. 2, recognizes that this process has been stalled for 8 years. 3, appreciates the fact that it took Mayor Athol Trollip and his administration less than 6 months to train, equip and appoint a functional Metropolitan Police Force. 4, further notes that 112 candidates completed their courses last week, graduated and have been properly appointed as properly trained police officers in a process that is fully compliant with the Police Act. 5, acknowledges that further specialized training will be rolled out to enable these officers to address the scourge of crime in Nelson Mandela Bay. 6, congratulates the Mayor and Council of Nelson Mandela Bay on their achievement in establishing the Metropolitan Police Force. And 7, wish Metropolitan Police Chief Farrow and all the newly appointed officers every success in their future endeavours to promote law and order in Nelson Mandela Bay. I so move.
Thank you. The EFF. Sorry. Before EFF, if any of the above parties does not, sorry, are there any objections to the motion? I put the motion. I hear a yes. Who's objecting? No objections, agreed to. The EFF.
Thank you, Chair. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to move without notice that the House notes that we owe it to our people, particularly the poor, to attract the best medical practitioners to the public health sector. Notes the depressing and broken down state of Tsiladzini Hospital in Thohoyandou, Limpopo Province, notes how over the years the Provincial Department of Health has not maintained facilities necessary to keep the hospital in a decent and functional state. Recognized that Tsiladzini Hospital for many in the Vembe area was the only place they could access decent public health services in the absence of functioning clinics. Further notes that only 4 doctors, 2 of whom are surgeons, are shared between Elam, Siloam, and another 3 hospitals in the area. Acknowledge nurses and doctors in Tsiladzini Hospital and other hospitals across the country that work under difficult conditions to serve our people. Encourage local councillors in their respective municipalities to work together with clinics, hospitals and communities to ensure that public health care conditions improve. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The ANC.
The ANC moves without notice that the House notes the University of Cape Town researchers and South African Medical Research Council, in collaboration with experts from Italy, have discovered a gene that causes sudden death in young people and athletes. Further notes that this discovery is the biggest breakthrough in South African cardiology since Dr. Christian Barnard, his first heart transplant. Acknowledges that the gene called CDH2 causes genetic disorder that leads to cardiac arrest. Believes that sudden cardiac arrest claims the lives of more than 5 young South Africans daily. Understands that researchers shall use this discovery to help diagnose and treat heart muscle disease in the future, and congratulates
Agreed to. The IFP.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the House, 1, congratulates South African adventurer and big wave surfing champion, Chris Burtish, as he completed the first ever solo, unsupported and unassisted transatlantic stand-up paddleboard crossing. 2, notes that he paddled triumphantly into English Harbour on the Caribbean island of Antigua on Thursday, 9th of March, after spending 93 grueling days at sea, after leaving land in Morocco off the coast of Africa on December 6, 2016. 3, further notes that in addition to the monumental Atlantic crossing, he also set multiple world records along the route, which include a new world record for a 24-hour solo, unsupported and unassisted open ocean distance. 4, proudly commends Mr. Burtish on the valiant goal of this transatlantic crossing, which was to raise a target of 18 million rand for South African charities, which include the Lunchbox Fund, Operation Smile and Signature of Hope. 5thly, hails Mr. Burtish a true South African hero, both on and off the water, and a shining example to all South Africans for showing us that the impossible is in fact possible, and calls on all South Africans to follow the motto of Chris Burtish of dream it, see it, believe it, and achieve it. I thank you.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. NFP.
Thank you, House Chairperson. On behalf of the NFP, I move without notice that this Honorable House knows that many of our students studying at Durban University of Technology, University of KwaZulu-Natal, Tswana University of Technology, Walter Sisulu, and Mpumalanga universities are currently stranded without accommodation, often forced to sleep outdoors or squat with fellow students who were fortunate enough to secure accommodation. And further notes that universities have limited accommodation, and the delay by NSFAS and CITAS to provide findings to students is a major contributing factor, giving rise to insufficient accommodation for students. And finally notes that many of our students, and particularly our female students, are being put in danger and sexual exploitation because of their vulnerability. and the lack of accommodation in an environment conducive to learning is having a negative impact on the academic performance of our students. Wherefore, we call upon this Honorable House to express its concern at the plight of our students who are stranded without accommodation, and encourage government and universities alike to make every effort possible to ensure that our students have access to safe and secure accommodation in an environment that is conducive to learning. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. The ANC.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The ANC National Congress moves without notice that the House 1 notes that Cyclone Enavo killed at least 50 people and injured 183, with 176,000 people displaced after it hit Madagascar earlier this week. 2 further notes that 137 emergency shelters were opened to those thousands of people hit by the cyclone. Understands that Inavo hits Madagascar, remote northeast on Tuesday, swelling rivers to bursting point, and parking fears of widespread flooding. 4 recalls that Cyclone Inavo brought heavy rains and winds in excess of 40 miles, 225 kilometers per hour, the equivalent of a Category 4 hurricane. 5, believes that the cyclone also has damaged the economy as it affected regions such as Sava in the northeast, which produces about half of the world's vanilla. 6 recalls that this was the most powerful cyclone to strike the island since 2012, according to the Red Cross. And 7, convey its condolences to the government of Madagascar, its people,